I'm gonna go through this whole video without making a single forehead joke. Just watch me. It's definitely not gonna happen. Not even once. And I'm not even being sarcastic about it. It's definitely not gonna happen. So, hi. Sorry, it's been a while. Turns out that to make videos, you need money. And I have money now, but it's hard to make as many frequent videos. I kind of forgot that time and effort is also a factor here. You can thank Bugfish that I'm back, or Nicole Rafey, I guess. So, French animation. Who watches it? Did you know that it was my dream to go to Gobelin for a while? Goblins? Goblins? I don't know how to say that. That's probably why I'm not there right now. French animation is truly a remarkable beast. It's strange because it's such an understated part of the animation world, but it's so influential to the art form. Some of the best animated shorts come from France. They also have the best comics. French illustration and animation has always been one of the most stylistically unique and engaging works of art. There is Asterix and Obelix, Black Sad, Blue is the warmest color, and with animation you got the triplets of Belleville, Ernest and Celestine, Arcane, and the incredibly well-known Stromae's Carmen. Sorry, it was so hard for me to not mention this. Isn't this such a period piece now? I go back to this video every year when I remember I did French ATAR and vaguely know some random tidbits about French culture. I think Tous la Même is better anyway. But this one aged pretty badly. Stromae. Shout out to Stromae if you're watching this for some godforsaken reason. In the 2000s, French animation was pretty popular for a while. You might remember a lot of shows produced or animated, usually for kids, by French companies. For example, it was thanks to the French that we got Totally Spies, Wakfu, and Martin Mystery, which inevitably led to the behemoth that is Miraculous Ladybug today. Maybe not as much of a behemoth as it was in 2016, though. And Code Lyoko was just kind of there as well. Code Lyoko predates a lot of these shows, and it's strikingly different. It's very moody and dark. The character designs aren't made to be Disney-style appealing. It's a strong, dark sci-fi theme it's going for. The setting is this drab boarding school with towering walls and this old abandoned factory with cracked windows and no safety measures. It's hard to really pin down who Code Lyoko is for, since it's a kids show, obviously, but it doesn't seem like it was perfectly designed to appeal to kids. It has its own distinctive visual style and intention. It's honestly strange that it ever got made in the first place, or that it was so popular that it got 4 seasons. It also blends 2D and 3D animation, which is a very impressive feat for a TV show for kids. I can't name any other shows that have done this while playing it completely straight. Usually when mixed media shows up in something like Smiling Friends or Gumball, the juxtaposition is intentionally a part of the world's imaginative design and mostly used for comedic purposes. Code Lyoko is an odd piece of animation history, something very clearly inspired by anime, but also very French, but also refusing to be anything too easy to watch or even understand. The show is extremely dark at points beyond what is considered appropriate for kids' TV, and it also uses a lot of sci-fi jargon that admittedly makes your head spin. So I recently had a strange hankering to go on YouTube and see old episodes of Code Lyoko. It's a bizarre experience rewatching shows from your childhood because it's never guaranteed to be an enjoyable watch, but you watch the whole thing as a child, like your child version decided to dedicate some of your time to it, so surely now you would enjoy it as well. My review is that it was still good, with some poorly aged moments. The animation takes some time to get good, but the storytelling is consistently solid throughout. Since these episodes are only 20 minutes long, it forces the plots to move really quickly, which I love. I've been getting kind of sick of these 1-hour episodes in TV shows where there's a lot of meandering. Not to say those shows are bad, but it is more filling to watch something concise as a refresher. Regardless, this show got me thinking about its origin, its many spin-offs, and the loyal fan community who still continue making art for it to this day. And also, oh my god, I didn't expect this video to be as long as it ended up being. If you hear the audio being all over the place, it's because I couldn't record it in one day, so, and I don't have a mic, so it's gonna be fun. Let's have fun here, guys. To give you an exciting rundown of my very initial experience watching the show, it was the day before my first day of starting year 9, funnily enough the same age as the kids in the show, and I decided that I would watch all of Code Lyoko. I heard the premise about kids saving the world via sci-fi means, and I decided there and then that I would watch it, and I helped that the whole series was being released on the official YouTube channel as well. So I stayed up until 4 a.m. that morning, watching until the end of the first season, and had the worst first day of school in my life. I'm glad I don't remember it. Honestly, the show was a little out of my demographic because it came out the year I was born, and I don't think I've ever met a person even 5 years older than me that knows about it. Anyway, it's free on YouTube now. No need to do detective work to find which streaming service it's on. You can just watch the whole show right now and come back to this video if you'd like. Or watch this video, watch the show, then come back and watch the video again so you get a new, enlightening experience. This is actually how I watch video essays about shows I haven't seen yet. Anyway, let's move on. Code Lyoko, since it's a kids show, is very formulaic, so every episode is pretty much the same. The main difference is that per season finale, there is one significant change that occurs, and will shift the formula for the entire following season. The show has one villain named X.A.N.A. I think it's an acronym for something, since it has full stops between the letters, but of all the canon content I've seen, there's nothing indicating what the full name really is. There's only been fan speculation on what it could stand for. Anyway, this is a computer virus that is awoken by our main characters and wants to take over the world. Or hates humans? I don't know, they're pretty vague about X.A.N.A.'s motivations throughout the show, but he consistently doesn't like humans very much. Every episode, X.A.N.A. finds a way to affect the kids or the environment in the real world, and they have to rush into the supercomputer where X.A.N.A. initiated the attack to fix things and bring balance to the world. I really love the idea of a computer virus as a villain. It reminds me of Anne from I Have No Mouth. There's something so terrifying about a non-human entity with absolutely no regard or understanding of humanity and whose only motivation is to torture them. Oh my god. Code Lyoko is basically just I Have No Mouth, but I'm a Scream. Except they're middle schoolers and can transform into warrior badasses. Wow, okay, that's a revelation. There's a video essay in there that I'm not going to make. Also, for some reason, I don't know why, but French shows have this rule where they don't explain the origin of a formula-driven show until the end of a season, or more than halfway. They do this in police procedurals too. I think one of the few shows I haven't seen this done is in Phineas and Ferb. They just refuse to provide any backstory before the first roller coaster episode in that show. Anyway, the Origins episode is called X.A.N.A. Awakens, and it's a fun two-parter that has varying watch order legitimacy. Is it at the end of season 2? Is it before the first episode of the show? Regardless, here's the inciting incident of all of Code Lyoko. Jeremie Belpois, one of the main 5 kids, is a robotics nerd who decides to scavenge for mechanical parts from an abandoned factory near their school, X.A.N.A, and discovers the sealed-off room with a supercomputer. It's one of the most complex machines ever designed that Jeremie has ever seen, so there's a lot of mystery on why it's even there, or why it still has an operational elevator. Also, I'll give Jeremie this. For being the nerd of the group, he's surprisingly brave. Like, people tend to forget that this kid decided to jump down 10 meters with only a rope at night without even expecting to find a supercomputer. I don't know if it's 10 meters. Is that too high? It looks about 10 meters. After coming there a few times, he decides to finally turn it on, which gives him access to this elaborately built virtual world called Lyoko. Lyoko is comprised of 4, later 5 sectors. There's the cold one, the hot one, the green one, and the tall one, and later the blue one. They have actual names, but you can probably guess what they are just from seeing them. I'll go more into the world building of Lyoko later. I'm not being dismissive of these sectors. Once Jeremie turns on the supercomputer, he meets Aelita, an alien-looking girl who's lost all her memories and doesn't know how she ended up trapped there. We don't know if she's an AI, program, or if she's an actual person trapped in there. She's currently inside a tower, one of the structures that exist in Lyoko, and Jeremie tells her to go out and maybe find out more information so he can help her. When she does this, she finds herself immediately accosted by 2 strange bugs. 2 bugs that have a very familiar symbol you will be seeing almost everywhere in this show from now on. It is called the Eye of X.A.N.A, and anyone or anything that is possessed, controlled, or created by X.A.N.A will have this symbol on it. For a computer virus out to kill humans, he has some great and consistent brand awareness, I'll give him that. Jeremie then returns to school, and I guess does schoolwork. These kids really don't go to school enough. I'm surprised with how much they get away with. Everything seems normal until he gets electrocuted by a vending machine and has to go to the nurse. Wanna guess what electrocuted him? Yeah, I don't know either. He's saved by Ulrich, the high school standard edgy broody kid who is now involved because random machines keep electrocuting Jeremie and he keeps coming to save him. And after Jeremie gets attacked a few more times, Ulrich finally decides to intervene and is like, what are you even doing that's causing these machines to keep electrocuting you? We also keep seeing this logo show up, indicating that whatever this is might be the cause. And it escalates like a regular episode of the show, where all our main characters are put through torturous hell while they try to run to the factory to get into the virtual world of Lyoko to vanquish X.A.N.A, who's almost always the reason for whatever goes wrong in their school. Ulrich eventually collects Yumi, his fighting partner in his Penchak-Salat class. I had been definitely saying that wrong. Penchak-Salat. Penchak-Salat. I'm actually gonna fucking search that up. Why is a pronunciation video 40 seconds? Why? Okay, I said it right. Penchak-Salat. Ulrich eventually collects Yumi, his fighting partner in his Penchak-Salat class, when he's also attacked by X.A.N.A in association with Jeremie, and Odd as well, his roommate, who just kinda shows up and joins in as well. Odd really has no reason to be here, but we like him. We stan Odd. Kind of. Jeremie doesn't enter Lyoko because he needs to be outside to guide everyone else and code them things through the supercomputer, but the other 3, Ulrich, Yumi, and Odd, enter these tubes where they get physically transported in. I think the implication is their bodies literally disappear into Lyoko and then they get materialized back on Earth in the tubes. To my understanding, there's no bodies left in the scanners that are behind or like closed in the tube, so I think they're just in the virtual world. The question you might have at this point is something that Ulrich himself brings up in this episode, and that is, why don't we call the cops or an adult and shut down the computer and thereby the virus. Firstly, the cops would not be useful in this situation, and I don't think they ever are in the show. I'm trying to remember a time they appear helpfully, and I can't. They're usually an obstacle here, not so different from real life. And secondly, the reason they can't shut down the supercomputer is because of the girl trapped in there, Aelita. They can't get her out, and she herself is a person that the kids get really attached to, even if she doesn't remember who she was. Or mainly Jeremie gets attached to her, but the others are also quite fond of her when they're not constantly dying to protect her from lasers. Aelita is also necessary because she's the only one who can neutralize X.A.N.A when the kids can't. She needs to be escorted by the kids to a tower activated by X.A.N.A, which means it goes all red and glowy, like this. These towers are what X.A.N.A uses to attack the kids in the real world, and Aelita is the only one who can enter and put in her password of Code Lyoko to deactivate the tower, and thus stopping the attack, meaning it is now white and glowy instead. The kids also have a function in Lyoko. They need to fight X.A.N.A-possessed creatures that try to prevent Aelita from getting to the tower, so she doesn't die before she reaches the tower. Also, for fun stakes, the tower is almost always the furthest area from wherever they spawn. I also need to talk about a very important part of the ending of this episode, which will be the ending for every episode from here on as well, which is the Return to the Past feature. So when X.A.N.A has escalated his ruin of the world beyond what the kids can feasibly conceal or make up a story for, they're able to get a button that rewinds time, and it turns back to the start of the episode. Or more specifically, Jeremie is. So yes, the kid who can use a supercomputer and virtualize his friends into anime warriors can also rewind time. Would you believe there's not a single moment in the show where he's cocky about it? The rewind is not something they like to use often because apparently it makes X.A.N.A stronger? How? I have no clue. They're awfully vague about it. They just say stronger. I guess the kids also rewind with X.A.N.A, so they're all learning from their mistakes from last time and what they can do better. Very ironic considering how formulaic the show is, though. Also, they use it pretty much every episode, especially in season 1. I like to think that the boring X.A.N.A attacks we don't see off screen don't require a return to the past. The return to the past mechanic is also interesting for the show because if a character made a major social faux pas and are really paying for it throughout the episode, they get to redo their mistake by the end and make everyone's lives way easier the second time around. The whole group also remembers, so it's not a lonely time rewind like it is in a lot of other media that centers on this trope. They usually have to listen to a lecture twice, and they're able to predict what certain characters are going to say. It's a fun consequence of the return to the past. So with this inciting incident, this is the formula for pretty much every episode in the show. One of the kids has a school or social problem, X.A.N.A attacks at the worst time to wreak havoc and try to kill the kids. Kids run to the virtual world to direct Aelita to a tower where she can neutralize X.A.N.A, and while the world is screaming, Jeremie sends them all back in time. Also, I know that whole explanation was really long, but I need you to understand that this doesn't even begin to cover how much plot there is in the show. The show has more plot than, like, a CW show even. I'll give you that. Code Lyoko was created by Thomas Romain and Tanya Palumbo and was released in early September 2003 by Moonscoop Productions. Moonscoop was the result of a merger between Anti Films and France Animation in the same year of 2003. As of now, Moonscoop Productions no longer exists. In 2014, there was a lot of turmoil and conflict among members who were managing the company, as well as shareholders, and were facing a bunch of lawsuits from an estranged figure over how things were being handled. The company fell into bankruptcy, and now Code Lyoko is owned by the Dargo Group, who in turn tossed it over to Mediatoon, a subsidiary of the Dargar Group, I cannot say that. And they're the ones who had published the show for free on YouTube. And I think that's all they're kind of doing with it at the moment. It was tossed around like a hot potato until Dargo just kind of threw it to the ground and told people to stare at it. Dargo is actually the company that created Blacksad, so I'm confused as to why they haven't decided to do anything with Code Lyoko. You could pull an Archie Comics thing and write a more mature graphic novel series about it. A lot of the older fans would absolutely pay money to read it if it's good. Always have to put that extra note in, like, just make sure you have quality control over this and that it is in fact good. Code Lyoko was originally a Gobelin film. See, Gobelin is relevant. I think I mentioned it earlier, but you thought I was waffling. The film was called Les Enfants font leur cinéma, translated to The Children Who Make Their Movies. It was directed by the aforementioned Romain and Palumbo, as well as a few other Gobelin students. I found it on YouTube and it's very short, but it has Yumi, Odd, Ulrich, Jeremie, Millie, and Tamiya, who we'll eventually see in Code Lyoko. It tells a very quick story about a kid running through Paris to a little out-of-the-way closed area where he meets up with these other kids and watch movies on a projector they've made themselves in this cute, sketchy style. The style of this film interested Anti-Films at the time after it was screened at the 2000 X.A.N.A Film Festival, and Romain and Palumbo were then offered a contract to create a TV series pilot based on it. This pilot was called Garage Kids and released in 2001. The original pitch wasn't that different from Code Lyoko besides adds a few things. You can watch the pilot online if you wish. It's still up on YouTube. But let me give you a quick summary of the differences. The protagonist in Garage Kids is actually Odd, not Jeremie. We start with Odd joining Caddick as a new student who quickly befriends Jeremie, then Ulrich. In this version, I think there's an implication that he's actually Jeremie's roommate, not Ulrich's. Also, Ulrich and Jeremie just seem really close from the beginning instead of developing a friendship from Ulrich saving him from several vending machines like in X.A.N.A Awakens. Odd also befriends Yumi since she's friends with Ulrich. When they're on the roof during lunchtime, Jeremie is suddenly attacked by some weird glowing thing from his laptop and thrown off the roof. Yumi immediately runs to the edge and catches him via telekinesis, and from there their secret is revealed, and the kids show Odd the factory and about this virtual world called Xanadu that has given them powers in the real world. So in this version, they actually keep their powers outside of the virtual world, which is really cool. I would actually be interested in how Code Lyoko would work if they had kept that detail in. I think they could have explored that in a later season, but also I can imagine that it'd be complicated for characters having to keep the Lyoko secret in addition to keeping their powers secret. The characters still get virtualized in the same way with the scanners too. You'll see the same shots used in the pilot in the show as well. They also show Ulrich's 3D samurai model and have him run around and kill some creatures. It's a pilot, so it's a little messy, especially for being only 4 minutes, but it's a decent setup for the show. There's no computer virus though. It seems Xanadu is just this virtual world they discovered that has creatures they must defeat. It's also a lot darker, and the anime inspiration is very clear here. The lighting is moody and dark. It's constantly raining. You can definitely see the Serial Experiments Lane influence as well. You might have also realized that Aelita is noticeably absent here, which means that she's a character they created for the show. And the main 4 were the original kids that were going to be there no matter what. Odd is also an interesting character here because it's very obvious that his role as a comic relief doesn't come until way later. He was supposed to be originally the straight man, new protagonist to this world, but it didn't end up that way. Moving on to the resulting Code Lyoko show, this was actually headed up by different people than Romain and Palumbo. Sophie de Croisette was the lead writer of the show for the first 3 seasons. It was originally meant to be episodic, a la Buffy the Vampire Slayer, but as they delved deeper into the lore and narrative, it became a little harder to keep the episodic format. From what I've seen of the show, she has a very clear understanding of the plot and characters and seems like a very logic-based writer. Very focused on why characters would do the things they do, especially intelligent ones. I like these types of writers. They're always the easiest to read intention from in their stories. This interview is a fun read because she also answers a lot of questions you might have from the show post-ending. She even lets you know how many towers she thinks there are in Lyoko. 85 apparently, which is a lot more than I thought they were. As for season 4, we had Bruno Regest take over since Sophie was pregnant during this time. I tried to find anything about his experience as the head writer for this season, but he seems pretty reclusive compared to de Croisette. He wouldn't even say publicly what his favorite episode of season 4 was. Like, okay, I'll leave you alone, man. I'm sorry. I enjoy this season a lot. I think it absolutely had some of the best episodes of the show, so you did good work, Mr. Regest. Thomas Romain is also someone I wanted to talk about. He's a very famous French and Japanese animator. He developed Code Lyoko, but he was actually unable to work on the series alongside his other one, Aubon's Star Races, at the time. In the end, he left Code Lyoko for Japan due to creative differences. It's implied that he didn't like the episodic format and had wanted something more narrative-focused. And I think he's just chilling in Japan now. I remember him going viral a few years back in the art scene, but I haven't really heard much from him since. He has a YouTube channel if you're interested in checking him out. As for Tanya Palumbo, she was a bit more involved in Code Lyoko. She worked as an animator, then creative director for all 4 seasons of the show. She did all the creature designs and character designs. For the finale, according to Thomas Romain, Palumbo seemed to have disappeared from the animation industry. It's unclear why, and I can't read French, so a lot of the articles explaining this are quite lost on me. I hope she's living her best life out there, and was happy to work on this project. Also, here's a fun note. Thomas Sturck storyboarded for season 1. You can see his credits throughout the season. You might know him for his strange tweets, and nothing else. Also, doesn't Teddy Gozilla absolutely sound like an Akuma villain Miraculous? I'm surprised he hasn't made one with that name already. Alright, the plot of Code Lyoko. Season 1. I already mentioned the inciting incident, so I think you have a pretty solid understanding of the first season by now. Most of the season is about materializing Aelita, the girl Jeremie found in the supercomputer while they're constantly being hassled by X.A.N.A and try mildly figure out who she is. By materializing, I also mean having her come to the real world in a physical body. And for future reference, virtualizing means the real world characters get transported into Lyoko and become virtual avatars, and materializing means the opposite. Jeremie actually gets quite close to materializing Aelita a few times throughout the season, and then ultimately succeeds at the end of the season. Season 1 is very similar to Miraculous Ladybug, which I know I've already made a lot of comparisons to that show, but it's a little hard to ignore the similarities here. Season 1 is also the least affected by the eventual mystery and plot of the show, so there's a lot of focus on the kids having school problems, dramas, fights with their parents, and things like that. X.A.N.A isn't as formidable of a threat yet, so the kids are generally more chill about their sudden role as superheroes. Speaking of X.A.N.A, I don't know if this continues out from the season season as much, but X.A.N.A actually adapts and learns from what the kids talk about. Like, he bases his attacks on the real world from things the kids themselves have said or done. For example, in the first episode of the show, one of the school kids, Millie, is really sad and hugs her teddy bear, which X.A.N.A sees and possesses to torment the school. Or in End of Take, where X.A.N.A is inspired by a monster movie being filmed in the factory, and so he creates a horror monster to get the kids. He doesn't really do stuff like this after this season. The kids don't really inspire him as much. From then on, he gets more psychopathic and uncaring about torturing them. I actually really like that in this season his attacks are so focused on what the kids or the world around him talks about, because it's like he's a computer program learning and testing out what he can do to prevent being defeated by them. Season 2. We're in Season 2 now, and Aelita is finally materialized in the real world and can attend school like everyone else. Kind of a bummer for her, I think. Since Aelita isn't a real person, or they don't really know who she is, since she doesn't even know, they have to create a whole new identity for her on Earth. They forge documents so she can attend Academic and be close to the rest of the group. The fake backstory they come up with is that she's Odd's cousin from Holland or Canada. They actually have a few fake backstories for her. At some point, she's Yumi's pen pal coming to visit, but I think they go with Odd's cousin towards the end. Either way, Aelita is now a real girl on Earth. At this point, you might think, perfect, they've won, let's shut down the supercomputer, and X.A.N.A is dead forever, and that's where you are deeply, deeply wrong. This is the big conflict of Season 2. Turns out that Aelita has a link to the supercomputer and X.A.N.A, so if they shut down the supercomputer, Aelita dies, or just gets really sick. I think it might be death, actually. It makes more sense. They call it a virus that X.A.N.A had implanted on her, and spends most of the season trying to find the antivirus so they can shut down the supercomputer. Sorry, supercalculator. Wait, I mean supercomputer.
Supercalculator. Supercomputer. Supercalculator.
X.A.N.A, meanwhile, is also harassing her because he's trying to steal her memories with a creature he's created called the Schizozoa. It's unclear why, but I'll explain soon. He said harass, like he's poking her every episode. It's just whenever she has to go to Lyoko to shut down a tower. The crux of the mystery lies in this new location the kids have discovered called the Hermitage. Aelita gets drawn there and starts having severe hallucinations about this place that she has absolutely no memory of, but she knows accurate things about. Like, she knows about a basement under the house, as well as this guy playing the piano there. It's quickly revealed to us that this house was owned by a man named Franz Hopper, an old teacher at Academic, but we know little else about his connection to Aelita. Season 2 is also where we're introduced to the blue one, Sector 5. The way to access it is by entering the code name Scipio, which automatically transports you there via glowing orb. Sector 5 is explained to be like a collection of all the data in Lyoko, kind of like a main hub. This is a very let's explore kind of season, as they take on late night trips into Sector 5 to learn more about Lyoko, while also facing even worse creatures from X.A.N.A. I'll get into the specific creatures later as well. Oh my god, this video is getting really long already. How is this longer than my video about Science Lament? You know, I see video essays about Code Lyoko in my algorithm, and they're always less than 30 minutes, and I'm like, how? Do you not dig deeper? Do you know how much stuff is in here? Do you know how dedicated this fandom is to a point that the show is treated like a religious text? There's so much, guys. There's too much. More people have to know. They need to know. Aelita's visions eventually lead them back to the Hermitage, and she finds this little doll called Mr. Puck, which contains a key that leads them to Franz Hopper's diary, though it's fully encrypted. Mr. Puck, similarly to the Hermitage, is something Aelita remembers the name of and has vague memories of, but something she doesn't fully know. Also, I need to mention this. She has memories of Mr. Puck, this doll she played with briefly as a child, but doesn't know her own birthday. That really sucks. Aelita needs a break in this show. Anyway, after getting access to Franz Hopper's diary and getting it encrypted as soon as possible, I think this is the perfect time for Valentine's Day drama. The show really likes jealousy as a plot point, like damn. It's very French, I'll give them that. Eventually, the gang does, or actually Jeremie, it's just Jeremie who does the work here, but he manages to decode parts of Franz Hopper's diary, which mainly talks about how to defeat X.A.N.A. Aelita also has repeating memories of being chased down by government agents with Franz Hopper, which strongly hints at the fact that he is her father. Honestly, they should have put that one together the moment she remembered the Hermitage or did, like, basic research on Franz Hopper himself. The kids dismiss these visions, though, since they think they came from X.A.N.A, but really they came from the man himself, Franz Hopper. A little tangential, but a really fun episode in Season 2 is when Franz Hopper just appears. Like, he's just at the supercomputer when they come down, and he's like, hey, what's up? I'm about to explain the plot to you. Obviously, it's a X.A.N.A trick, like, very obviously, but he also says that, and this is to drive a wedge between Jeremie and the group, that Yumi has, like, cell degeneration and is implied to be dying very soon. This is presented vaguely in the show, but I think the implication is that she has brain cancer from being virtualized so much, which is very horrific news for a 14-year-old to hear. Anyway, she's fine. They whack him. It's all good. Just remember that this is a kid's show.
I couldn't have known. I'm sorry.
You're sorry? Well, that's not gonna help cure Yumi.
The most important thing the kids find out is that Franz Hopper is actually still alive in Lyoko in a similar way as Aelita was. They just can't speak to him and he has no 3D model and he's just kind of lost in the interwebs. He's able to do the same things as X.A.N.A, so the kids get him confused with it very often. In one episode, he possesses Sissi and tries to communicate with the kids to help them after activating a tower which X.A.N.A manages to shut down. With time, the diary is fully decoded, and here's what we learn. Franz Hopper created X.A.N.A and a supercomputer after he was working on something in Switzerland called Project Carthage, the project he worked on for the government that he defected from once he learned of its true purpose. Despite 4 seasons, we actually don't learn a lot about Project Carthage. At most, it's described as a secret government program designed to block enemy communications. We don't really know what enemy, we don't know why they needed a whole project to block these communications, and we don't know what about it was so bad that caused Franz to leave it. It is frustratingly unclear. Regardless, Hopper worked on X.A.N.A and the supercomputer while he was hiding out in Caddick as a teacher to escape the government, but they find him and his family here anyway, and so he ran to the virtual world he had created so he could keep himself and his daughter safe. They managed to stay safe in Lyoko for a while, but eventually X.A.N.A went rogue, and Franz told Aelita to stay in one of the Lyoko towers to be protected from him. And it was then that the supercomputer was shut down until Jeremie activated again for the first time in 10 years. Returning to the present, that was an unintentional pun. We also learn that Aelita actually doesn't have a virus, as Jeremie had suspected, but she has a part of herself that is linked to the supercomputer as well as the keys to Lyoko, something X.A.N.A needs to escape the supercomputer and rule the world. The keys to Lyoko are lines of code located in Aelita's memory, which is why X.A.N.A has been using the Schizozoa to steal her memories. If X.A.N.A gets the keys to Lyoko, he's able to escape the digital world and overtake the Earth. And if that's the case, shutting down the supercomputer to shut him down will no longer become a possibility. So when Aelita finds out about this, she doesn't take it well and basically dies. Her thought process is that if they shut down the supercomputer and X.A.N.A, she'll die, but X.A.N.A will too, and I guess she saw that as a reasonable trade-off. Obviously, they, revive her, and she goes back to Lyoko because, it's not good from any perspective. They need Aelita. She's like a person now. It'll be really hard explaining her disappearance from the school to people who know her and are friends with her. From here, X.A.N.A kind of wins, actually. After enough persistence, he actually captures Aelita with the Schizozoa, takes all her memories, until Franz Hopper intervenes again. He's unfortunately not able to defeat X.A.N.A, but he gives Aelita her memories back, and now Franz Hopper might be dead or still in Lyoko. They don't know. The only victory is that Aelita's memories are all back to her, but X.A.N.A got what he wanted. He has the keys to Lyoko, and shutting down the supercomputer won't kill X.A.N.A anymore. He's out and about in the world now, more dangerous than ever. Anyway, time for Season 3. Who's having fun? Season 3. This is the sector losing season, and it's very stressful. So you might be thinking that since our heroes lost last season, how it's not completely chaos here with X.A.N.A fully dominating the world, and it's because X.A.N.A is still tethered to Lyoko. So this is the season where he seeks to destroy it so he can escape the supercomputer, first by destroying the sectors and eventually the core of Lyoko. You know when you're watching Endgame and the heroes keep losing the stones to Thanos, and it gets a little frustrating to watch? It's inciting the final battle, but you get a bit of a sinking feeling every time they lose another stone to the Purple Man. That's what the entirety of the season feels like. Every few episodes, the kids have to prevent X.A.N.A from destroying the 4 sectors of Lyoko. You know, the green one, hot, cold, and tall. Because if all the sectors are destroyed, they have no way to access Sector 5, the actual plot-relevant sector that might be housing Franz Hopper. You know they're going to lose each sector every few episodes, and you know that's what's going to lead to the finale, but it's still annoying every time. Love the idea that Jeremie can literally turn back time for several hours, but he apparently can't lock down the sectors to ensure that they don't get destroyed. The way X.A.N.A is destroying the sectors is pretty specific though. He possesses Aelita in Lyoko and gets her to enter the activated tower of that sector to put in a code X.A.N.A, and this destroys the sector. So as opposed to the last 2 seasons, the characters have to stop Aelita from entering towers instead of guiding her to the towers. It's a really fun switch. I like it, but God, it gets really annoying seeing Aelita get possessed for the upteenth time. Also, this season really likes to use the verb Xanified, because X.A.N.A has possessed so many people that a verb to describe it is now needed. And they decided to go with Xanified. It sounds better when the characters say it, I swear. They also eventually confirmed that yes, Franz Hopper is still alive in Lyoko, somehow. For a guy we only see in flashbacks and never physically see in Lyoko, he actually gets a lot of fake-out deaths. What they find is a fragment of his DNA that indicates that he's out there somewhere. Apparently not as present as X.A.N.A is, though. Also, I'm yet to mention this, but another thing X.A.N.A is trying to do this season is to destroy the core of Lyoko. I'm not entirely sure what this means, but it's the heart of Lyoko. I believe that after destroying the sectors, destroying Sector 5 requires attacking the core of Lyoko. And by destroying it, Not only does this destroy Lyoko, but Xana's plans for world domination succeed. Franz Hopper is destroyed forever as well, and yeah, that's pretty bad for Aelita. Okay, so the order of sectors getting wiped out is the green one, hot one, cold one, and finally tall one. Xana actually succeeds in deleting each one, but not before Jeremie completes a program that's able to virtualize them directly in Sector 5. Jeremie always has the best timing, or I like to think he just likes making things tense for his friends because he thinks it's funny. The ending of the season also has William included to the group. He's a classmate that's been in and out of the show after his first introduction in season 2, and they tested taking him on as an addition to the cast since they've been getting absolutely destroyed by Xana for the past few episodes. And eventually they decide, yes, we shall take him on as a member. He joins thanks to Yumi, who's the last to concede in adding him, and he is a Lyoko warrior for an embarrassingly short amount of time. I don't think you'd be able to guess how long he lasts. It's just comedically short. I timed it myself, and William is a Lyoko warrior for exactly 4 minutes and 34 seconds before he gets possessed by Xana and is fully stuck in Lyoko until the finale of the whole show. He doesn't even get one successful mission. So embarrassing. Especially since he's the oldest and technically most fit out of the group. I mean, I really don't care about William. I honestly wish they killed him off, but it's seriously impressive to screw up this badly on your first day on the job. Anyway, the finale of season 3 is William becomes Xana's meat puppet, while Yumi really regrets her recent life choices, and the core of Lyoko is destroyed, meaning Lyoko's destroyed, and Xana can really take over the world now. And there is a good chance Franz Hopper's just dead. Thanks, William. For nothing. Who's up for the final season? There is a bit of a light at the end of the tunnel for that season finale, though, and it's that Franz Hopper basically sends a message to Jeremie being like, hey, I'm not dead. Again. Don't grieve me yet. So that's something. Anyway, your question might be, Lyoko is gone. So how is the show here? Still, exactly. So that message they got from Franz Hopper contained the source code for Lyoko, meaning that for season 4, this is a recreated Lyoko by Jeremie and Aelita. So the status quo change wasn't as big as we thought, turns out. I think they could have really made the kids stew in the fact that Lyoko is fully destroyed for an episode or two, though. I think that's kind of a missed opportunity. One important thing is that William is gone from the real world, and while he returns periodically, it's only in Lyoko, and he's always possessed by Xana, so always evil. I don't think we get normal William until the very end of the series. Sorry, William fans. I mean, I'm not really sorry. You get a clone this season, it's not so bad. It's not like he's fully gone. Actually, it kind of is.
He can be a real windbag sometimes. You get my drift now, William?
No, sorry, but I can't even feel a breeze.
Are you an idiot or something?
That's a little hard to explain.
Also, this is the fall into the digital sea season. The worst thing that can happen to you as a Lyoko warrior is falling into the digital sea, where you can never rematerialize from. And Xana or William try really hard to do this to all of them. It's a lot of fake out deaths. I think I've lost count of how many times they fall into the digital sea. A lot of Xana's plans are having a rando kidnap Aelita, throw her into Lyoko, and then try to throw her into the digital sea. My girl can just never get a break no matter what season she's in. The funny thing about falling into the digital sea is that it's literally worse to fall there than to get killed by Xana monsters. So now when one of the cast falls into the digital sea, the others have to mercy kill them so they can at least materialize back on Earth. Actually, maybe that wasn't as funny as I thought. In order to combat the digital sea, Jeremie and Aelita create this ship called the Skidblanier, which they use to navigate it. This ship is a way for them to find Franz Hopper as well as track down Xana and William. So it's an all-purpose ship. They kind of need it for a lot of things in digital sea. If you've been wondering what the digital sea is and why I suddenly started talking about it when it's barely been mentioned in the previous seasons, it's because it's a part of this new recreated Lyoko, and it's the only way to track down Xana. The digital sea is what surrounds Lyoko and its sectors, and there's also a floodgate Xana uses to attack the kids as usual, because that's a necessity in every season. Either way, the digital sea is part of the digital network, which is where they got that message from Franz Hopper from last season. So basically, they're traveling through the internet. To put it into simpler terms, I could have just said that at the beginning. On their first expedition, they find out there's another sphere containing another Lyoko. Not confusing at all. Not even a little bit. Anyway, they call this a replica, and there's a lot more that were created by Xana. I'm running out of name explanations. The name for goddamn everything in this world, man. Okay, here's the complicated bit. So these replicas are being powered by Xana-controlled supercomputers from different parts of the globe, and this is his ultimate plan for world domination, to take over the world with attacks from all these replicas he controls. The replicas are also of just sectors, not the entire world of Lyoko, since they're weaker than the supercomputer the kids use near Caddick. As a result, Jeremie has found a way to materialize them to the location conditions of these various supercomputers so they can be destroyed. And you may have noticed this is exactly what Xana was doing last season, slowly destroying the sectors and eventually Lyoko. So now we're doing the same thing to Xana's versions of Lyoko. The concept's too interesting though. I can't shame them for reversing every second plot they come up with. I do like why they did this. It's so that when they materialize in the real world to destroy these supercomputers, they're wearing their outfits in Lyoko from 2D, and I think that's cute. I don't mind how confusing it is. Anyway, they destroy as many replicas as they can throughout the season and visit a lot of places around the world, including satellite even. Also, I need to mention this because it kind of got cut out because my audio is bad. But Franz Hopper has a real name. It's actually Waldo Schaefer. Franz Hopper was the fake name that he was using when he came to run from government agents. And Aelita's name is actually Aelita Schaefer. It's not Aelita Hopper and it's not Aelita Stones either. I just need to mention that because I say Schaefer a few times in like the following part, and it's like who the fuck is Schaefer? And if you watched the show, you would know. But if you didn't watch the show, you wouldn't know. So I guess this is a notice for both of versions of you, I guess. If you're doing the thing I told you to do at the beginning where you don't watch the show and then you watch the you know what? That's it. That was long and winded. I need to shut up. This video is really long. And now we're gearing up for the finale of the show. We have to not only save Schaefer, but also William and finally kill Xana. How exactly are we going to do that? Okay, so in the episode Cold Sweat, we're a few episodes away from the finale, and we get introduced to this monstrosity, the Colossus. And they're so screwed, I can't even begin to explain to you. This thing easily kills everyone, Lyoko. To explain, Xana essentially drew all of his powers from destroying the replicas he created to power this kaiju for heroes to defeat. It is his ultimate creation that will murder these children. And now Jeremie has been able to compile all of Schaefer's notes provided to him from the man himself to finally defeat Xana. For real this time. Definitely for real. You have to believe me. They focus on freeing William first because I think that kid hasn't been in the real world for a whole year now. Aelita and Odd go into one of the supercomputers from the I-Sector replica too, and this is the only plan that will free William. They need to devirtualize him in Lyoko, and when they do, Jeremie has a program to bring him back that needs to activate at the exact time. Unfortunately, William is super strong at this point in the show, so they're all obviously freaking out on whether they're even going to be able to do that. When they go to the supercomputer located in Siberia, our duo of Aelita and Odd discover that Xana has been creating an army of robots to take over the world. And this has been Xana's true plan all along. World domination via overtaking every computer system in the world and robot apocalypse. It's assumed that these armies of robots are not just at the location of a supercomputer, but every single one around the planet. It's a miracle he hasn't been spotted yet. Like, who's manning these stations? And even if the people working there were Xanified, surely there's people who come by to check or notice that their friend Luca hasn't been responding to their texts. Doesn't help when Colossus shows up during this and pretty much devirtualizes everyone there. If you're curious which one of the kids finally kills evil William, by the way, it's Odd. The one guy who has, funnily enough, the least investment in William as a character. Any other character having the killing blow on William would have hit harder. My pick was Yumi. Unfortunately, the Colossus is too unmanageable and ends up destroying this kid. But at least William's here. Also, he apparently lost all his memories since Xana possessed him, so he comes out like, guys, did I do a good job? It's like, no, William, you lost a whole year of your life. We're sorry. So this is the second to final episode, and our boy Jeremie has been working on a multi-agent program to destroy Xana for good this time. Really for good this time. It's a fun episode because we have Sissi back, my favorite character, as well as William, who they kind of hate right now. Also, William's like, I have a score to settle with Xana. Will you let me back into the group? And obviously they're like, no. You idiot, of course we're not going to do that. But they're nice to him, so eventually they let him in, and William joins them as backup, being like, hey, I know I've been possessed for the last year, and have been a complete detriment to your team, but let me stay here right next to Jeremie, where I can get very easily possessed, and make things much worse for everyone again. And that's what happens. Again. The Colossus is defeated by Ulrich, he spears him in the eye, kills him, and then immediately gets crushed to death after Colossus is not even a threat anymore because Aelita manages to escape to Sector 5 even before he kills him. Meanwhile, Yumi is just getting bodied by Xanified William in real life in the factory. For the amount of times they've been betrayed by William, she should have been able to say, told you so to the group. Like, at least once. I think she earned that. She was the only one who never trusted him. Also, Waldo Schaefer finally shows up to help the kids. I wish we had at least a model for him. Surely a middle-aged guy would have a really cool virtual avatar of himself, right? Maybe he would have just looked exactly like his human self. So now Aelita is in Sector 5 with her father. They have the program they need to run to destroy X.A.N.A. But unfortunately, they don't have the power to do so, and X.A.N.A. keeps attacking Hopper in his glowy form since he's the only one with the most capability to shut X.A.N.A. down. There's nothing that can be done until Franz Hopper decides to sacrifice his power for the program, meaning he can no longer exist. Aelita begs him not to go, but Jeremie says that if the program isn't executed right there and then, Franz Hopper will die for nothing, and to Aelita's dismay, that's exactly what happens. X.A.N.A. is fully destroyed, thanks to the sacrifice of Franz Hopper. There is no trace of X.A.N.A. anywhere in Lyoko, the world, and his plans of world domination are completely gone. The man who had created him finally saw to X.A.N.A.'s demise while he faced his own to save his daughter and her friends. And yeah, that's the entirety of Code Lyoko. Let's see who we got in this show. The characters in the show all have wayward consistency, but they're quite fun to watch. The main 5 kids are all really entertaining and have pretty detailed relationships with one another. The adults in the show, meanwhile, are hogwashed. I don't think I liked a single one except maybe the principal because he was funny. The best one to start off with is Jeremie, who is without a doubt the only child with a brain cell in this whole show. Everyone is startlingly stupid compared to him, except maybe Aelita. Jeremie does fall into a lot of cliche tropes with nerd characters. He's very bad at sports, can be incomprehensible to people sometimes, is very hyperfixated on his hobbies, and has an AI girlfriend. I shouldn't say AI girlfriend. That's me to Aelita. A lot of Jeremie plotlines are actually focused on his stress over having to do so much work. He's replicated himself a few times just so he can do school in addition to trying to destroy this evil super virus and ensuring his friends are safe in Lyoko. It's a lot of responsibility on the kid. Since he's also stupidly intelligent, he's had plotlines where he's almost left the show because the adults realize, hey, maybe let's get this kid who's able to do robotics at a university level out of this middle school and have him do more useful things. His dad is a big proponent of these stories since he thinks it's a waste of time that he's in Caddick. Jeremie himself actually says that the reason he doesn't want to leave isn't even because of X.A.N.A, it's because he doesn't want to leave his friends and Aelita, who he's gone really close with, which is just terribly sweet. Jeremie's a nice kid. He doesn't even have that much of an ego, and whenever he uses technical jargon and people don't understand him, he doesn't get mad at them for not understanding. He just re-explains, albeit a bit frustrated. Though they do use the "in English Einstein" bit way too many times with him. Another very important part of Jeremie's character is his relationship with Aelita. I'd be remiss to not mention it. Jeremie at the start of the series is quite an outcast, and the other students find him a little stuck up and weird. The only person who's really nice to him or even befriends him is Ulrich, and that's only after he gets electrocuted by a vending machine, which would usually derive sympathy from anyone. This relationship with Aelita is really important to him and drives a lot of what he does throughout the show. When Aelita is eventually materialized in the real world, he starts to socialize better and have a more human connection with her. There aren't a lot of people he's able to connect with really easily, but Aelita is one of those people who really understands him in a way nobody else, not even his closest friends, really can. There's also a lot of animosity he has towards his family. He's shown to have a one-sided beef with his cousin. He just hates him for a whole episode. And it's explained as jealousy, but like, he goes really hard for no reason. And I thought it was setting up for like a big reveal that this cousin betrayed him, but it's just jealousy apparently. So, damn, I didn't know he had that much of a temper. Also, this annoys me, but every time something goes wrong, like one of the kids goes missing in Lyoko, or something really bad happens, they always blame Jeremie, and I feel so bad for him. I would lose my mind with stress if I was constantly in charge of my friends' lives, while they get to run around as superheroes in a virtual world and might die if I don't help them. I can't keep blaming him for everything, okay? Like, you guys are in there too. It's also your responsibility to keep each other safe. Jeremie isn't God. And when they do get mad, Jeremie works and strains himself even harder to fix his mistake. Absolute angel. I need to mention also that Jeremie is never shown in Lyoko, but we are given some idea of what his avatar looks like. Apparently he looks really funny, but it's never really confirmed what it is. Also, very rich to make fun of him for this because Odd in Lyoko is a purple cat, which is something they never make fun of him for. I think Jeremie episodes are always my favorite because they're usually the only ones where X.A.N.A isn't the culprit. There's this one episode in season 1, episode 19, where he and Aelita have a bit of a fight because they're getting frustrated that they still haven't found a way to materialize her in the real world. So he decides that he'll go to Lyoko to see her himself and apologize. This is stupid because no one is as smart as he is, and if one of them screws up, they can't return the past, or he could just get stuck in there with Aelita forever. It's also funny because he doesn't even consider asking Odd or Ulrich to virtualize him. He goes straight to Yumi. Yumi has not shown any kind of affinity for technology, so he must have asked her because he knew if the other boys did it, he wouldn't be able to forgive himself if they messed up. Regardless, this episode is really fun because Jeremie isn't just a passive character. He actively goes out of his way to care about Aelita's feelings, and also ends up making a mistake that backfires on them. But it all works out. It always does. So they call him Einstein a lot? I mean, he has a poster of Einstein on his wall, so it makes sense, but I thought I needed to mention it because they really do call him Einstein a lot. Ulrich. Ulrich is he's a classic teenage cool guy character. I tried so hard to find what the trope is that best describes him, and the closest I could get is maybe like Ace, or cool guy on campus. A better description is probably any main character in any power fantasy media ever. Ulrich is a real brooder, which is something all of the kids make fun of him for, just a sad, lonely little French boy. Whenever Ulrich goes missing, the characters don't even consider that it could be a X.A.N.A attack because he does it so often, they're just like, oh, probably brooding under a tree again. Just give him some space. I think Ulrich might be my favorite character because for all his antisocial and distant nature, the show doesn't let you forget that he's actually just an awkward and emotional teenager like the rest of them. He gets overwhelmed constantly, but he also likes looking like a cool badass to everyone around him. I just find the duality interesting. Something Ulrich is quite embarrassed about is his vertigo or acrophobia. They never actually specify what it is, but it's in the episode titled Vertigo. He has a fear of heights, basically, but I don't think people know that vertigo and acrophobia are two different things. The fan wiki suggests that vertigo is a chemical disorder that causes dizziness at high altitudes, but that's not what it is. Vertigo is an issue with your inner ear that causes motion sickness, or the feeling of spinning when you're not moving. Heights aren't the cause, it's the inner ear. What the show seems to suggest is that Ulrich has acrophobia because the kids motivate him to climb heights, to escape X.A.N.A attacks, like he's scared of looking down and nauseous about climbing higher. I know vertigo sounds like a cool name, but I think acrophobia would have been an equally cool name for the episode. Maybe vertigo means something else in French, I don't know. Either way, Ulrich's acrophobia is one of the most inconsistent things in the show, because he was more than happy to jump down a rope probably 10 meters in the air with no issues before the episode that introduces this. At some point, they also test out giving this weakness to Yumi, but I think they realized it works better for Ulrich to have it, since he's a lot more emotionally immature about showing his weaknesses to his friends. Another thing about Ulrich is that he's very popular in school, but also terrible in school. His popularity is shown through the form of Sissi, who we will talk about later. She's a lot to explain. He gets a lot of detentions and reprimands from the school because he's so bad at classes, which actually adds a lot of stakes to some of the X.A.N.A attacks because of that vulnerability thing I mentioned earlier. He's very clearly embarrassed about the fact that he's not as smart as everyone else, but he makes up for it with his heroism. He's also the least cautious out of everyone, so sometimes when nobody can make a plan, he just goes for it.
Have you got a better idea?
No.
Do you think it might work?
No.
Super strength!
Ulrich actually grows a lot throughout the series, from lonely, broody teen to a pretty chill guy. You can see he's pretty self-actualized by the end of the series too. He even starts giving advice to other characters, something that season 1 Ulrich would definitely not have done. Also, it'd be dumb of me to not mention that Ulrich's dad is like the worst guy in the show. I'd even go as far as to say he's worse than X.A.N.A himself. It's a pretty big deal when it comes to this show. There's an episode called Zero Gravity Zone where Ulrich blows off Lyoko stuff because he has a soccer game he's been training weeks for, and you'd think saving the world would take priority, so they're like, what's his deal? Odd then explains that it's because his dad's coming to town, and since Ulrich is terrible at studying, the only thing he can impress his dad with is his athletic ability. It's why he puts all his effort into taking fighting classes and doing gym. And the episode ends with Ulrich's dad near death, dangling off school ledge with his wife just a hand down, near tears, saying that he's proud of him. And then there's a return to the past, and this interaction is never addressed again. I don't really like stories where the moral is you should love your parents because they're your parents, and that secretly, despite them being jerks to you, they care about you at the core of it. This is just an aside. I find it annoying personally. But seriously, like, in what other kids show would characters be having this conversation while they're literally hanging off the edge of a building about to die, and the show is playing it completely straight? Also, the dad doesn't get better. Like, he really doesn't. I think every episode with the dad from here on just refuses to give him any kind of leeway. It doesn't even do that American TV show thing where it's like, your dad's hard on you, but family is still important. Like, no, his dad's just a dick the entire time. There's this episode called Distant Memory where he's leaving with his parents for the holidays, and while in traffic, he gets a call from Jeremie to help with a Lyoko problem, and he immediately unbuckles the seatbelt and leaves the car. It's so funny. His dad's like, where are you going? I haven't finished complaining about you to you yet. And he's like, I'll go to your house faster if I walk, and then walks the other direction. Truly incredible. Ulrich is also trained in a form of Indonesian martial arts called pencak silat. I'm gonna pronounce that differently every time. With Jim, their school coach. It's unclear if he wanted to practice this and Jim learned it to teach him, or if Jim for some reason has extensive knowledge on this specific martial arts form. Either way, Ulrich is the only one who attends this class before being joined by Yumi in the first episode, so it's pretty clear that it's not a very popular club in Caddick. It actually does expand to take some younger kids, but I just want to know where the interest in pencak silat began. Was there a previous Indonesian teacher here? Did Ulrich have a mentor who was trained in pencak silat? A part of me kind of likes the lack of explanation though. Also, this is just an aside, but when I watched the show for the first time, I thought Ulrich has a mole under his eye, and then I realized it's a wrinkle. For some reason, there's always one under either eye, and I'm a little disappointed because I liked him having a mole. I thought it was a very simple but cool design detail. Anyway, the writers also make it clear that Ulrich is the main hero in Lyoko. His Lyoko design is samurai, because they're cool, I guess. I don't know if there's a deeper explanation there. I don't really get why they picked samurai when Yumi was already doing her own Japanese-style outfit, but I don't think they thought about it beyond samurais are cool. Also, I just explained how he learned penchucks a lot, so I don't know why they didn't try for an Indonesian warrior-themed thing here, like, why go straight to samurai? His main weapon is a katana, and he's usually the only one who has to run in for close combat encounters as a result. He also has the most powers out of everyone. First, we have triplicate, where he can make 2 copies of himself. The copies are really low on HP, but they deal the same amount of damage he does. There's also super sprint, where he can run at the speed of light. Same as the Flash, he can run up walls, coast through terrain. He also has superhuman flexibility, but I'm unsure if that's a special skill he has, or if Ulrich himself is just good at dodging attacks as well. There's also triangulate, which I don't fully understand, but it's a combination of triplicate and super sprint where he runs around any creatures as an ambush attack. Either way, it's obvious that he's the writer's favorite when it comes to taking down threats in Lyoko, most emphasized by how he gets the coolest vehicle in Lyoko called the overbike. It's a bike he gets to ride through Lyoko at huge speeds, which seems a little redundant since he has super sprint, but sure. It looks really cool. It's worth it. There's also another interesting Ulrich episode I wanted to mention called The Chips Are Down. This is one of the many Ulrich episodes where he does something stupid because of his crush on Yumi. Actually, a consistent theme in the show is teenage boys doing something stupid because of their crush, and then A.N.A tortures them as a result. In this episode, he finds out Yumi might be moving back to Japan because her dad lost his job, so he launches a return to the past by predicting the lottery numbers for the day after. He then gives the ticket to Yumi's parents so they can stay in France, and obviously they're the correct numbers. They're like, damn, how did he know? The group finds out and get mad at him because, like I said, A.N.A gets stronger after a return to the past, and he's then temporarily kicked out of the group. And obviously there's another A.N.A attack they can't handle, so they need Ulrich back and forgive him. But can I just say, isn't that the cutest shit ever? To copy lottery numbers and win a lot of money just for Yumi to stay. The good thing about this show is that these are kids, because I can imagine that adults would use this return to the past feature for only selfish purposes. Also, I need you to know, before he did the lottery number thing, he was trying to write a letter to the president of France so that Yumi wouldn't have to leave. And he earnestly does it. He sits down and writes a letter to the president. This boy really has a heart of gold. Yumi. Yumi is a bit more of an outcast from the main 5 because she's a year older and a lot more mature. She's the, hey, let's be real here, guys, kind of character. She's the only non-white significant character in the show. She was born in France, but is fully Japanese. One joke they really like making with Yumi is all the white characters keep accidentally speaking in Chinese around her, and she has to clarify that she's Japanese. I know, it's real hilarious, right? It's also hilarious when you've heard it at least twice every episode. I guess it's not so bad because they make the clearly more ignorant characters make the joke, like Sissi, Jim, and Odd. I remember on Tumblr, someone posted a picture of Yumi's room, and someone who was Japanese and read the writing on the wall and said that it was the most incomprehensible shit they'd ever seen. I was unable to find the post. But, like, it's bad how badly they dropped the ball with Yumi's background. There's little consideration in taking it seriously or with any kind of respect, especially in the first few seasons. Yumi does have other stuff going on for her as a character, but she is generally very one-note and not as interesting as the others. She's intelligent, has a really big temper, and likes her goth aesthetic. Actually, best comparison is Gwen from Total Drama. They're very, very similar. A little sensitive, but hard exterior. Yumi is one of the few characters whose family we get to see pretty often because she doesn't live in Caddick Academy like the other kids. She goes home to them every day. She has a younger brother named Hiroki, bit of a troublemaker, but they're really close. They even learn Morse code to communicate with each other in front of their parents, and it's a surprisingly consistent thing throughout the show. I feel like Morse code is so much effort to communicate with your sibling. One word takes so long in Morse code, you might as well just use abbreviations or just make up your own version of Morse code at that point. Another big thing with Yumi is that her parents aren't in a happy marriage. Like, they're always threatening divorce. I don't remember if they actually do, but it causes her a lot of personal grief, and she seems a little parentified as a result. She's also in different situations to her friends when it comes to Lyoko since she lives at home with her family. When your 14-year-old daughter keeps coming home really late with a little explanation, there's obviously going to be a lot of tension and concern about what she's doing, or why she has such a hard time explaining what she's doing. In season 4, we find out that she's also had a diary this whole time, which obviously Ulrich gets his hands on because drama. I've had this question since I've seen this episode, but why does Yumi have this picture of Ulrich where he looks like he got 1 hour of sleep. Did she think he looked cute? I love that even he's weirded out by it. Also, the diary is another object she shares with Gwen from Total Drama. The prototype of Gwen, apparently. Also, I think all of these characters have more diaries than the characters in Vampire Diaries. Let's do a diary count here. In the 3rd episode of the 1st season, we find out that not only does Ulrich have a diary, but so does Sissi. Then we find out in the origin episode that Jeremie has a video diary because he's narrating the events of the show. We also find out about Franz Hopper's diary, which is more plot-relevant stuff, and then Yumi has a diary. That's too many diaries, man. I can't tell if it's a 2000s thing, or maybe people still have them now. Yumi Ryoko is the weirdest to describe because why is she a geisha? I don't get what the intention was here. Geishas are famously women who do entertainment like dancing or singing, usually for men, and Yumi is a fighter, so why is she dressed like a geisha? They changed her design, thankfully, into this, which is a bit more Japanese-style superhero, like a Power Ranger almost. The cherry blossoms are a nice touch, and I like the fans. They're Tessin fans, which are war fans in Japan. I guess they did more research this time around, at least. Yumi's fans are like boomerangs. She shoots them out to slice opponents up, and they spin around back to her. She's also able to use telekinesis to control where they go. She's also got this floating scooter that I don't think looks particularly cool. It's called the Overwing. I think scooters look lame, or like these style of scooters. I think they should have at least done like an Indian scooter, or just not a scooter. Scooters are just notoriously slow. The best Yumi episode is probably the one where we find out she has a diary. It's called Lost at Sea. Essentially, her little brother decides to steal it, loses it, and lets it get mangled by a dog. And then Yumi tells him that he is now an only child.
Yumi, I've been looking for you. I wanted to apologize for this morning. I had no right to take your diary.
Did you find it?
No, but I looked everywhere, I swear.
Well, until you find it, you can consider yourself an only child.
The show's dialogue is so normal sometimes, and then suddenly you'd be hit by one of the most soul-crushing things you could ever say to a human. Yumi actually gets a lot of these kinds of lines throughout the show. When they go into Lyoko, by some accident, Yumi gets separated from the Skidblanier in the digital sea, and they can't find her for a few days. She has to meditate on the fact that she might die in there without ever apologizing to her brother after yelling at him. Her power slowly drains while her ship keeps getting attacked by monsters, and she has to come to terms with the fact that her friends may never find her, or they might not be able to bring her back. Did I mention how much this show tortures its mostly child cast? When she's saved, she apologizes to her brother and confirms that the diary is nowhere near as important as their relationship. It's a really solid episode for her. And Ulrich's involvement in the background also shows how important he is in her life too, even though he's just helping out behind the scenes. Yumi is a really cool character, but man, they really, really need to sort out the representation aspect. Like, desperately. I'm saying this like the show is still ongoing. It's gone. It's done. It's too late now. Also, this is something that needs to be mentioned, but of all the main characters, Yumi is absolutely the one who gets tortured the most by X.A.N.A throughout. I don't know what gods she angered or why the creators had it out for her, but Yumi being targeted is so well known among the fandom that there's a series of episodes called Pick on Yumi Week where she suffers the worst. It starts with Cruel Dilemma and ends with The Girl in My Dreams, and either way, Yumi gets screwed over even after this to horrific degrees. It can even get weirdly sexualized sometimes, which is what I meant by poorly aged moments, which seems honestly a little understated. An AI program being racist or even fetishistic is not incredible news, but I just don't understand it from a writing perspective. Then again, sometimes I don't understand it from a writing perspective and realize that it's actually for some weird self-gratification on the part of the author, which, as a writer, I don't understand. Either way, I think Yumi deserved better, but I do like that the show kind of acknowledged it with how overt she was by the finale. Like, yes, girl, stay mad. We don't have to remember the good times. Like, please. You're the only one reacting normally here. You're not insane. Odd. Odd is the comic relief character. He is the lovable goof with a furry side. He's also quite the heartbreaker. I think Odd has a girlfriend in every single episode of the show, and I don't remember a single one of their names. Also, yes, his name is Odd. Full name is Odd de la Robia. I don't know if that's a common French name, actually. I don't think it is. There's little mention on whether it is a nickname. It's very difficult to describe Odd because he's so different from every other character in the show. He dresses in purple and pink, has a purple streak in his probably dyed blonde hair, and never ever shuts up. Also, you shouldn't be surprised to know that he's a theater kid who also makes movies. I don't think I've ever seen a straight cis male character with bright colored hair and clothes outside of like Arcus from Exception. It's interesting to see an unconventional character like this in a show from the 2000s. Odd kind of grows on you like a fungus. That is to say, he grows on you well. He can be incredibly annoying, but it never gets obnoxiously bad. Like, the boy thankfully knows his limits. Also, he's tempered by everyone else in the group who are a lot more introverted and depressed. He also becomes more of the heart of the group as the series goes on. He's very alert about his friends' emotions. There are a lot of moments where he pulls aside a character and ensures that they're okay. He usually has these scenes with Ulrich or Aelita. Ulrich because man broods to no end, and Aelita because technically they're fake cousins, and also Jeremie can be pretty bad at picking up social cues when it comes to her. It's a great role for him, and it makes him pretty necessary to the show despite him not being particularly plot relevant or a strong fighter in Lyoko. Odd being a heartbreaker is not something that works in this show, I think. It's weird because they'll show him as a playboy, but they also show that he falls in love way too quickly and way too deeply too, which are two completely different things. I think they ended up going with the latter because it's thanks to that sometimes random girls will get sucked into the plot and everyone gets affected because the dumb new girl character they introduced always makes things worse for them in defeating X.A.N.A. That's actually the one thing that annoys me about Odd. Like, dude, what did you think she was gonna do? Make out with you because you showed her the supercomputer you didn't even know how to use? What's the end goal here? Like, really. Also, you might not believe me, but I almost started recording the script for this when I realized I didn't mention Kiwi a single time. I think there was one mention of Kiwi. So, to fix that mistake, Odd has a dog named Kiwi that he has illegally brought to Caddick. They're not allowed pets in the dorms, and it's an extra annoying thing the characters have to deal with because if any authority figure or Sissi catches Kiwi, they're pretty much screwed if they need to run to the supercomputer because of the X.A.N.A attack that's happening at that same moment. I like Kiwi, he's cute. I think he should count as a Lyoko warrior, and they should definitely have tried adding him to the group or put him in the scanners. Also, I love that Ulrich hated that dog so much when he met him. His first instinct when Jeremie was testing out the scanner to virtualize someone Lyoko, he immediately stole him away from Odd. Ulrich really said, "I've only had Kiwi for one day. I don't mind possibly killing him." Let's talk about Lyoko Odd real quick. It's kind of hard to ignore the purple cat in the room. The design is very weird, but honestly, I kind of like it. I just can't imagine anyone besides Odd pulling off a cat costume like this. I don't think even Adrian Agreste can. His design has the least amount of changes throughout the show's run, and I think it's because his original design was already so detailed and intricate. It's kind of hard to make it any less or more complicated than that. Odd has the ability to shoot arrows from the tops of his paws. They're called laser arrows, but they don't look like lasers really. When he's in danger, he can also put up a purple shield in defense from incoming attacks. As he is a cat, he's also able to run like a cat and crawl up walls and things. Also, Odd has prophetic dreams in the first season. He gets visions about what's going to happen in Lyoko. It's called Feature Flash in the wiki. When he gets them, he warns people, but sometimes they happen anyway. His power is gone by season 2, and it's entirely retconned. I kind of get why, it's really overpowered, but I think it was a really interesting choice to give it to Odd out of all the characters in the cast. Visions of the future just seems like a very plot-related superpower, so giving it to Odd, who's the least related to the plot, feels odd. He almost gets teleportation too, but then it gets him into some clone trouble, so they wrap that up in one episode. Odd's also got this overboard that is just a hoverboard that he can go around on. That's for the mountain sector, I think. But it's also easy for characters to get knocked off of it. I think my favorite Odd episode has to be the one where his parents come to visit him in Caddick. We don't actually know anything about Odd's life up to this point. What you see is what you get with him, so it's interesting to get some backstory here. They're what you'd expect Odd's parents to be. They're relaxed, considerate, and interesting people who are really supportive of him and all his quirks. However, Odd is very miserable the whole time before they even arrive, so the kids are like, "What's your problem, dude?" And Odd explains to them that the reason he's upset is because his parents are so nice to him that he has no one to rebel against. And obviously Ulrich's like, "Suck it up, my dad sucks." Odd eventually learns his lesson via zombie apocalypse. So, another reason this is one of the funniest episodes of the show is because who's the genius who decided to do a zombie apocalypse episode and have the only two surviving people be Odd and Sissi? I could kiss you on the mouth. That is amazing. Odd doesn't usually get any other specific stories like this, though. They're generally uncommon, mainly because he's comic relief, and his stories aren't as weighty as any of the other characters. He feels like a bit of an outsider sometimes, but he's definitely a welcome presence. Like, without his stupid shenanigans, I really don't think the show would feel as much like a kid's show. Aelita. So, Aelita, in the first season, is a bit of an anomaly. She is a young girl trapped in Lyoko, and we only see her in her 3D form. She's sweet and considerate and seems human, but she also has no memories of her past, so we really don't know what she is. We don't know if she's just a program, AI, we don't know for what purpose she was created, we don't even know her connection to X.A.N.A. I think Aelita has, without a doubt, the most interesting story. The mystery about her past and who she was and how she got trapped in the supercomputer is very closely related to the plot, so she automatically becomes the center of it. Every season we learn a little bit more about her, why the supercomputer exists, and what happened that's trapped her there. Though for the character sections, I'm more interested in focusing on her as a person, since Aelita starts getting side stories similar to the other kids from season 2 onwards. So let's focus more on that. Aelita has a lot of pent-up emotions from being trapped in Lyoko for so long. It's very obvious as soon as she gets out. She's depressed, but she's also incredibly angry about having lost 10 years of her life being stuck in a virtual world, all while she still has to be faced with the monster her father had created and stuck her there with. It's something, obviously, none of her friend group understands, much less something that anyone can really understand. One of the most important features of her character happens later in the show, which is her talent in DJing. Aelita has come to Earth and decides that she likes DJing and does a lot more DJing after that. She makes a mix CD and stuff, even opening for a popular band in the show called the Subdigitals. I think DJing is such a specific passion, and I think the only time I've ever heard a character having an interest like that was Jason Mendoza. But it weirdly works for her. I'm thinking she makes like Plaster Brain kind of music, or Charlie XCX. Some hyperpop shit. I think that's what it's called. Actually, is that DJing? That's just being a music artist, isn't it? One of my favorite Aelita episodes is Uncharted Territory. It's following her materialization on Earth and how she's still adjusting to how things work here. She's bullied by Sissi and feels so alone and separated from everyone that she decides to run back to Lyoko because it's more familiar to her. Obviously, returning puts her in Xana's crosshairs, but it also exposes how despite her hatred of being trapped in Lyoko, it was her refuge for a long time, even if she was alone. It's easier to return to a cage than understand your own freedom. Another really good one is the episode titled Aelita in season 3. This goes really deep into her backstory and her emotions relating to being trapped in Lyoko, wrestling with how she's wanted her memories back for so long. But when she'd gotten them back, she feels even more helpless about her past. It's a really strong episode with a lot of flashbacks, and we actually see Aelita being trapped in the tower and Franz Hopper speaking with her. Alright, so what is Aelita like in Lyoko? Firstly, let's talk about her design. I love it so much. The intent is so clear with it being a sci-fi fairy design, and it's great. It's tweaked a lot throughout the series, but I really like the final design in season 4. It's a bit cluttered, but very striking. Aelita's powers are mostly defensive, but she gets more offensive powers later on. Her most used power are these energy orbs or fields. They shoot out of her hand as pink glowing spheres and attack opponents. She can generate larger ones with enough focus and throw them pretty much in any direction, even curved if need be. Aelita can also summon platforms and change Lyoko's topography to her will, a power called creativity, usually by singing and I think meditating. She can create ice walls, clones, projections, freeze things, pretty much everything X.A.N.A can, actually. In season 4, they give her angel wings, which are activated with a cute bracelet, which ends up being pointless because she ends up being underwater for most of that season. I think it was to compensate for how the other 3 have vehicles and she doesn't, but yeah, sorry, Aelita. Despite these powers, though, Aelita is still a bit of a damsel in distress in the series, especially in the first season. This is a consequence of the show's world building, because if Aelita dies in the virtual world in the first season, she's dead for good. Also, she's the only one who can deactivate Xana's tower, so if she's gone, they are literally toast. They'd have no option but to shut down the supercomputer and move on with their lives. She's somehow the most vulnerable, but also the most important character in Lyoko. Aelita also has a lot of grief and sadness, especially at the end of the series when she really lost her father and still knows nothing about her mother, Anthea. Every fan or official continuation of the series always sees Aelita a little forlorn and alienated from her friends. It's a very common theme with her character. If you're curious about the name Aelita, since it is a starkly different name from everyone else in the show, it's a reference to an old Soviet film from 1924 called Aelita, Queen of Mars, which itself was an adaptation of a novel by Alexei Tolstoy. The reason the characters nickname her Princess is in reference to how Aelita in the movie is a queen. Or maybe they just called her Princess for the trapped in a tower thing, which makes a lot more sense in canon, actually. X.A.N.A. I don't know if an evil computer virus counts as a character, but if Cain or Am can be a character, I guess a voiceless entity like X.A.N.A can be too. So X.A.N.A is basically Am. It's evil, it's out for blood, and it will electrocute you to its heart's content. The interesting thing about X.A.N.A, and crazy choice for a kids show, is it has no hesitation trying to kill the main characters. Like, it has less hesitation in killing the characters than probably every Demogorgon in Stranger Things. Like, its plans are pretty damn good. It separates the group from each other and attacks 1 or 2 of them relentlessly. It uses literally everything around the human world to kill them. It has very little chill. Characters very well could have died several times, and the only thing that keeps saving them is Jeremie or Aelita making it in time to the supercomputer to launch a return to the past or deactivating a tower. Xana's motivation seems to be, at its core, about self-preservation. But even knowing this, the show doesn't really go out of its way to let you sympathize with X.A.N.A. It's an evil program that is out to kill people and doesn't need to be humanized. The story seems a lot more concerned about why X.A.N.A exists and what its connection is to the supercomputer. Otherwise, it's just a pure evil being the kids must repeatedly defeat. I guess that's a little boring to people, but I actually like it a lot. I think it's nice to just have a very straightforward, cutthroat villain who's not tied by human laws, niceties, or guilt. The program will try to murder kids and take over the world. It doesn't come off as cartoonishly evil because it's a computer program. It's not something that can be entirely understood. It was made this way. Though not on purpose. There's a reason why X.A.N.A is evil, and I think it's one of my favorite sci-fi explanations in the show show, the Return to the Past feature was something fans did use, just like the kids when creating Lyoko, which is why that world and X.A.N.A are so advanced. Franz stuck himself in June 6, 1994 in a time loop 2,546 times, or almost 7 years, and spent it all repeatedly perfecting Lyoko and X.A.N.A. Doing this developed X.A.N.A into gaining self-consciousness and despising humanity as a result. Franz, in turn, also went a little mad from it, though we actually don't see the effects of what happened to Franz as a result, since we only see him in glowy orb form throughout the show. My fun headcanon is that X.A.N.A is a Frankenstein-esque creation developed as a controllable system for Franz that wanted to find his own identity, but started hating Franz for keeping him stuck in Lyoko. Or, alternatively, an obsession with perfection is what broke X.A.N.A, and now all he wants to do is the opposite, to destroy and corrupt, to fail perfection. An evil AI aged surprisingly well, I think, but the fact that it's shown to be a bad thing that the government and most adults want to get a hold of is weirdly prophetic. It's an interesting theme in the show, though, that the only people who can manage such a destructive weapon like X.A.N.A are children. They're the only ones who can be trusted to not let it destroy the Earth. X.A.N.A is kept secret for all 4 seasons of the show. The few people who learn about it constantly have their memories erased. The only people who are allowed to know are the kids and Franz Hopper, and it feels like the show could have escalated it quite a lot, but they chose not to, and I've always found that to be such a conscious and intentional choice. On the one hand, the show must go on, and a formulaic show has little ability to develop a movie-like narrative, but on the other hand, it's a little sad that children must bear the brunt of forgotten government projects and the harm they've left behind, and the most those governments will ever do to remedy it is cover up everything they've done as if it never happened. I think the best X.A.N.A episode is definitely Ghost Channel. Actually, Ghost Channel is probably the best episode of the entire show. If you want to get a taste of the show, or if you're feeling nostalgic, absolutely watch it. It's phenomenal. This episode has the kids on a regular mission in Lyoko and return to find things a little bit off, but everything in its place. But at the same time, we also see a world where Ulrich, Odd, and Yumi are missing, and Jeremie's returned to the real world. The trio are revealed to be stuck in a simulation created by X.A.N.A that perfectly replicates their world, and they slowly discover that everything is being controlled by the program. Even Jeremie is in this world, but he's another simulation of X.A.N.A. The world ruled by X.A.N.A gives the most insight into his personality, this kind of cold, calculating evil monster who believes itself to be superior to all humans. Just a really good episode. I would highly recommend it. Also, isn't it the coolest thing that X.A.N.A is the logo of the show? Imagine being such an incredible villain that your brand is inseparable from the title of the show. Makes you really consider how stupid it would be if they introduced another villain, right? As if that would happen. William. William is a very weird character for me to talk about because I don't care about him, but apparently a lot of people in this fandom do. Here's the rundown on William. He appears at the start of season 2 as a very obvious opponent to Ulrich, as a secondary love interest for Yumi. He is a cool guy. He is popular and chill, and that's pretty much it. William made some trouble in his law school, specifically vandalism, which is why he was transferred to Caddick. Otherwise, he's a bit of a womanizer and is just kind of there. He, impressively, has less personality than Luca from Miraculous Ladybug. That is really quite a feat, let me tell you. William's really boring. The most interesting thing he does from a character's perspective is ask out Yumi once, and that's it. The reason I'm even talking about William and not shunting him to a footnote in this video is that he is, as I mentioned before, incredibly plot relevant. William is tested out throughout season 2 and 3 as a possible addition to the group. The only person who isn't interested in including him is actually Yumi, who thinks he can't be trusted. Eventually, he does get added, and I already told you what happened. Let's not embarrass him a second time. Honestly, I found it funny how little the show seemed to care about him. It seemed like his entire existence was leading up to him just becoming X.A.N.A's pet. Probably the only interesting thing they could have done with that character, though, because if he was on their side for the whole time, the kids would have become way too powerful. A lot of the 4th season is focused on rescuing William from X.A.N.A's clutches while simultaneously dealing with the fact that, to the public, this boy is missing and no one knows where he is. They're lucky they're in a boarding school because it's easy to explain disappearances for the first few weeks, but after a while they have to replace William with a really terrible and moronic clone. The adults only really start to catch on in the episode where they save William. Also, after William is rescued, his character arc isn't really resolved. We see little of him. I don't know who cared about his drama, but I really couldn't. I don't think I can tell you a thing about him, and I don't think he really gets an episode dedicated to him. It's funny because on the fan wiki he's included in the list of Lyoko warriors, which is what the main cast is called, but he only really had like maybe half an episode as a successful Lyoko warrior before he got captured, so I don't think he really deserves to be on the list, guys. If they mean the clone of William that occupies most of season 4, then he's a way better character than the original William. I'll say that.
Anyway, you get the picture. Get the picture? Where is it?
Watching him was like watching Subhandi for a whole season. I appreciate the drama of his character, but let's be real, that's mostly fan interpretation, and the show absolutely didn't give him the time he needed to really flesh him out. In terms of powers, William has quite a few in his Lyoko form. Firstly, Edgy's costume known to man. It's so black, and he looks so pale, and it reminds me of a mime. He also carries around this giant claymore-type sword called Zweihander, and it's funny how many times people have just one-shot died from this thing. William's powers include Super Smoke, which is where he turns into smoke and basically teleports anywhere he wants to within a reasonable distance. He's also invulnerable when he's in smoke mode. He can turn his sword into smoke and just throw it at people and incapacitate them too. Zweihander also lets him use Energy Slash, which is where you kind of collect energy in your sword, two-handed hold, and attack for a lot of damage. You might notice at this point that William's powers are incredibly similar to Ulrich's, and you won't be mistaken. They seem to have been very intentionally written as parallels. Ironic considering who is actually the one to defeat William in the end. There's a point in the show where William levitates too, as well as sees things really clearly in the same way X.A.N.A can. It's unclear how much of X.A.N.A's influence there is in his powers. Unrelated way to end this section, but William reminds me of, you know that Community paintball episode? The second one that was cowboy themed? And there's a fake Jeff that shows up who's really hot, who Jeff's really jealous of. William is that character with his parallel being Ulrich. If that doesn't make sense, I recommend binge watching Community. How about you watch this video? Watch Code Lyoko, watch this video again, watch all of Community, and then come back to this video so you can understand this very specific reference. Sissi. Sissi is amazing. Truly one of my most favorite characters. She is the principal's daughter and has a very obvious crush on Ulrich. She's also like Chloe from Hercules Ladybug. Just constantly makes everyone's lives worse, not only because of her crush on Ulrich, but also because she very obviously wants to be part of the group but is too insecure to be normal about it in any way. So she's just mean to everyone and expects zero consequences for it. I mean, there are moments where they need a favor from her and Ulrich has to take her out so they can get that favor, which is usually played for a laugh. Otherwise, that's the only time anyone really even fake cares about Sissi. In the Origins episode, it's actually revealed that Sissi was among the first people to find out about the supercomputer, along with Odd and Ulrich, when they come down to the factory to save Aelita, but she was unable to keep the supercomputer a secret from adults, so they kicked her out of the group. Fair enough, I guess. But I wish they made a Lyoko model for her. It would have been fun. She actually finds out the group secret several times, but every time a Return to the Past changes it, and she accidentally proves each time that she is absolutely a liability for their missions. Sissi has groupies too. She has two cronies with her named Irv and Nicholas. Irv is the evil Dilton of the duo, and Nicholas is the evil moose. Someone please get that reference. Irv could take over the school if he really wanted to. It's just that Sissi keeps him in line with his crush on her. The true hero of the story, I think. These two cronies do very little. They literally just follow her around and do her bidding, and she yells at them. It's a very Yzma and Kronk situation here. I don't think Sissi has any friends outside of these two guys, which implies that she is deeply, deeply unpopular at Caddick. Most Sissi episodes consist of the gang being mean to Sissi, and then they realize that being mean just incites more animosity, which isn't great for either of them, and then after Return to the Past, they treat her nicer, which she actually appreciates, and is pleasant until she inevitably gets mad at Yumi again. That's more than I can say for other bully characters out there. I think Sissi actually has a surprising amount of complexity. Functionally, she is an antagonist in their social lives, but she's hardly any contest to X.A.N.A. Most of the time, she's the damsel in distress in the real world they have to save from X.A.N.A out of obligation. Also, Sissi is short for Elizabeth, which I don't know how you get there. Also, is that a nickname she chose herself? Jim. Jim is, Jim. Jesus, I thought odd was hard to describe. Where do I even start with Jim? Jim is sort of the mentor character, to put it very considerately. He is the coach of the school, but he also does pretty much everything else in terms of betting, security, and clubs. He's an all-rounder kind of guy, and the principal's right-hand man. Jim is a secondary antagonist to Sissi in the real world. He's the guy the kids have to really look out for if they want to sneak out, since he's usually also in charge of detention, ensuring that nobody does anything outside of school laws. Is that school laws? Schools makes more sense, I think. He has a giant oaf, but also pretty nice. He's like Hopper from Stranger Things, only impressively less competent. Kinda just doesn't know what's happening, but jumps into action anyway. Jim also joins the group temporarily, from what I remember in season 1, but then he forgets again, like everyone else. I think they should have let him know the entire show, though. It would have been nice to at least have one adult to help out the group. One of the recurring bits with Jim is that he always starts a story, or mentions something insane, then says, I'd rather not talk about it. Eventually they have an episode called I'd Rather Not Talk About, where all he does is talk about it. And we get a huge, huge lore dump on Jim. A consistent thing that's mentioned is that he was a Navy SEAL trainer, I think for the United States. Like an actual drill sergeant, which, okay. I don't know why he ended up at Caddick or in France. There's a whole list on the wiki of every time he's mentioned a job he's had. It is extensive, but I'll let you know my favorites. In The Pretender, he mentioned that he was a paranormal investigator for the Secret Service. In Temporary Insanity, he apparently wrote a one-act, one-scene play, which is also pretty impressive. I would like to see that play. He was also a war photographer, according to Double Trouble, because why the hell not? Imagine being a drill sergeant and then switching to become a war photographer. I need to know what possibly incited that change. There's also a good possibility that he's lied about all of this, and I honestly can't tell what would be funnier. Millie and Tamiya. Quick mention, but these two are journalists at Caddick. They run a local newspaper in their middle school, and I find them really cute. I think they really build out the world and bring a lot of life to the story. In general, all the other students and staff at Caddick are really fun to watch. Shout out to the nurse, who's hot. I like the science teacher. And I don't think there's any other teachers that I remember. Pretty forgettable, actually. But the other students are cool. I thought I'd just make a quick mention of Millie and Tamiya. They're around a lot, and I think they're sweet. Okay. Alright, let me get this one out of the way real quick. So, the pairs the show pushes are Jeremie and Aelita, as well as Ulrich and Yumi. Ulrich and Yumi are a little unbearable in the show. They're so cute, but you also kind of want to strangle them throughout. They flip back and forth on being friends or more at least 50 times. I do like the nature of their dynamic, which is that of partners who are the most competent together. The best comparison I can give you is Scully and Mulder, or maybe Riza and Roy from FMA. Deep cut, but maybe Mitsuru and Akihiko from Persona 3 if they dated. Basically, stoic super soldiers who don't realize they like each other because they're too focused on the mission type thing. Personally, I think if the show went on for another season, they would have just kept the will they won't they going and never resolved it. I remember the writers had said that if they get together, the interesting romantic tension would go away, but I really don't think it would. It's also weird because will they won't they doesn't really work for these two. Ulrich and Yumi both know they like each other. They almost kiss several times, but they do nothing when nothing is really holding them back. I don't know what's going on here. It's not remotely like a Jim and Pam situation. Jeremie and Aelita seem like they're just dating. I don't think they're friends at all. They're just already together. But then they also have that stupid Ulrich and Yumi thing where they get jealous over the other about stupid things. Their dynamic is very sweet and loving. They're both extremely supportive of each other and have a lot of cute moments throughout the show where they drop the pretense in front of their friends sometimes. I need to also mention this, but in season 4, I don't know if it's just me reading into it, but Aelita and Odd kept getting paired up to an insane degree. I think someone in the writer's room just really liked them together for some reason. But let's not forget the fact that they're fake cousins at school though, yeah? Let's start with the real world. Caddick Academy is obviously the most dominant setting. It's a middle school that is located in Boulogne-Billancourt in France, so just around here in Paris. It's a very fancy area of Paris, actually, but the kids don't look like incredibly well off, and William was transferred here despite his bad record, so I don't know what's going on here. According to the fan wiki, it's not just a junior high school, it also takes senior students, but the show never really indicates this. The oldest students we see are Yumi and William, and I'm pretty sure they're both 14 to 15 years old. While reading the section, though, the fan wiki just seems like people who are taking their best guesses here. It's also based on this place, Lycée La Canal, and it's very accurate. You may visit it if you wish. The academy itself has numerous locations that X.A.N.A uses to torture our students at, like the gym is a very popular location for Yumi and Ulrich specifically. We have dorms, sports field, the empty park, the boiler room, the principal's office, the rec room, which gets introduced very late for some reason, infirmary, cafeteria, library. It's every single thing you'd find in any other school, really. It's also very French. I've been to a French high school before. The buildings really are that tall and surprisingly gothic, and they really do have these many rooms for everything and a confusing number of hallways with little direction. Caddick is also a boarding school, as aforementioned with the dorms, so there's obviously showers and double bedrooms. I like the boarding school aspect a lot, and it's for only one reason. I like when the kids sneak out at night together. I just like it in any piece of media. It's fun, it keeps the stakes high, and you get the sense that they're in even more danger being without supervision at night. Other locations include Yumi's house and the factory. I think they have a hospital in one episode and then never again. Yumi's house can be a bit of a cultural disaster sometimes. You will never see this family eat anything besides ramen and sushi at any point in the show. The factory is probably my most favorite location. It's so big and impressive and the kids look so tiny compared to it. I just really love the juxtaposition of all these giant impossible machines that they're trying to take on. It adds something weighty to the atmosphere of the show. Anyway, we've dwelled on the real world long enough. Let's talk about Lyoko. I'm limiting myself to talking about the original Lyoko for the first few seasons because if I talk about about the replicas, I might actually lose my mind. I already mentioned the 4 different sectors, but I failed to mention specifically what X.A.N.A does with them. These sectors all have a large number of these structures called towers, and whatever attack X.A.N.A plans to launch on the kids is associated with whatever tower is linked to that specific sector. For example, during Cold War, since they're all freezing to death, the tower to deactivate the attack is in the ice sector. I don't know how accurate this is, actually. I never made the connection on whether the sectors are associated with the specific towers. This is something that was mentioned in the wiki, and I hope they're right. I'm sorry to the Code Lyoko fan who'll get incredibly mad at me for not being accurate enough. Let's start with the forest sector. This place is obviously simulated like a forest with trees and vegetation. There's a lot of pitfalls into the digital sea here, and a lot of dense foliage, so it's a little harder to navigate through. The forest also has the most arguments between the cast for some reason. I swear, I've heard Yumi and Ulrich argue specifically in the forest the most out of any other sector. I can't tell you why. Ice sector is also glacial and cold. There's also water here, not to be confused with the digital sea, which is way below. There's a lot of tunnels and slides through this area, and otherwise, it's probably the worst one you can end up in. It's slippery, dark, and probably the hardest to navigate. Desert sector is actually quite uncommon. I don't think I saw them here a lot of times. The best part of the desert sector is whenever they go pod racing through these giant walls. That's always fun. Otherwise, it's a lot of rocks and hiding behind cover in this one. Mountain sector is a lot of floating rocks, and I'm pretty sure it has the biggest risk of falling into the digital sea. The rocks are layered on top of each other, and it's really easy to fall in, so it does kind of suck, but weirdly, it's my favorite sector. And I have no explanation why. Maybe it's just because it's purple, and I like purple. Sector 5 is your worst nightmare. It's a bunch of rotating blue cubes and buttons. It's very sci-fi, like the most sci-fi location, I'll give it that. But god, the rotating maze thing gets really annoying fast. Especially when there's also creatures around. Sector 5 is like a giant sphere and notoriously hard to get in and out of, usually requiring a code and being dominated by Sector 5 specific creatures too. Speaking of which, so these are all the creatures and monsters of Code Lyoko. They were actually not a feature of the environment, they were all created by X.A.N.A. At least I think they are. I have a fun theory that they were all made to be friendly companions for whoever ended up in Lyoko, but they'd all become possessed by X.A.N.A. These are really cool designs. I wish this show got a reboot so I could see another artist or creator take them on. Creatures usually show up in groups of 3 in Lyoko, and I'll be honest here, they're not that fun to watch defeat. I've never been big on fight scenes in general. It's a little worse watching them in non-stellar 3D animation. Or maybe I don't like it in Code Lyoko because the characters in Lyoko are essentially playing a video game. And I've seen gamers play COD or Valorant at high levels, and none of the main 4 in Lyoko compare even remotely to their skills. If they were actually good at using their powers, maybe I'd be more compelled to watch them take 6 hours to kill 1 hornet. Either way, I like the creatures. I like it when they waddle on screen. All of these monsters' weak spots are usually this logo mask on their face, better known as the Eye of X.A.N.A, as I mentioned before. In terms of usage, blocks and cankrolats are the most common kind of X.A.N.A creature. Blocks are little cubes that are pretty much impenetrable by all of their weapons unless you hit them in the eye. Cankrolats are little bug things. You've definitely seen them at some point. They're stupidly weak. You can hit them pretty much anywhere. But the best area is probably the legs and, of course, the eye. Congrays exist in the digital sea, and they're just these creepy toothy fish. I forgot their names. They shoot lasers from their eyes and just kind of swim around. Their Eye of X.A.N.A is also located in their tail, which odd considering the fish they're based on have a pretty famous droopy lantern thing on their head. Usually, so I don't know why they didn't just put it there. Hornets are really annoying. They're flying creatures that shoot rapid-fire lasers at our cost. You can shoot their wings off or Eye of X.A.N.A pretty much. There'll always be a scene where they're constantly missing these guys for a good while. Sharks are in the digital sea, and they actually don't shoot lasers. Isn't that a surprise? They make torpedoes of sorts, and also have the most ungodly, terrifying as hell designs. They creep me out, let's move on. Tarantulas are another popular one by X.A.N.A. They have long, spindly legs and a snake-like body. They crawl really quickly towards you and can shoot lasers from their limbs. Since they tilt their head up a little to shoot, it's quite hard to get a shot in their eyes, so the cast get defeated by these things pretty easily. Creepers are very similar to tarantulas, except they're in Sector 5. They're wiggling body, and I hate them. They scare me. It doesn't help that they shoot lasers from their mouths and don't have eyes or any other human-like features. I would actually rather take the creepers from Minecraft. They're not nearly as scary. Calamar are also creatures from the digital sea. They were made mostly to target the Skidblaneer. They look like a spider than tarantulas do with their spindly legs and egg-shaped body. It kind of drills into enemies as a weapon. No lasers again this time. Mantas are a Sector 5 special, and William has one of these that he cowboys on into the episode every now and then. They float around, the mantas, colossus, I think they're cute. Crabs are a lot bigger. They have really long legs and a pancake-shaped head that it shoots lasers from. Crabs have a variety of laser attacks. They're annoyingly formidable, but usually if you hit them on the Eye of Xana or just the shell around the laser, you're good. Scyphozoa is the name you will hear thrown around a lot in season 2 to 3, and it's because it's the only creature that is able to get Aelita's memories. It was purposely designed by Xana to only do that. It's a tentacled monster that floats around like a jellyfish. I think he's fun. Also, I like saying its name too. It isn't limited to attacking Aelita though, it's captured Yumi and William before, and when it does, it pretty much just possesses them. I don't remember if it was ever defeated, but I don't think it's invulnerable to attacks. It's just extremely strong. Megatanks are stupidly overpowered, but they're giant rolling balls that open up and shoot an enormous wall laser in front and behind it. The shell is impenetrable, but when it opens, you can get a shot of the Eye of Xana within. And if you hit hard enough, you can kill it. But usually Megatanks are so bad that the kids have to sacrifice each other to save the others from it, usually Aelita. Colossus is the final main creature of the show. I think I've already shown you enough clips, but he is definitely the worst obstacle to our heroes. He has an Eye of Xana, but it's on his face really high up, so you gotta crawl up there somehow. There are other eyes, but the one on the face is obviously the one that will give you the best chance of killing it. It also doesn't have any lasers. It's so big that just whacking characters can pretty much kill them in one go. Or you're crushed to death, which happens to pretty much everyone in Lyoko. Guardians aren't really a Xana monster in my opinion. I think they're just one of Xana's powers, but I'm including it here because I'll forget to mention it later. They're just these spheres of indestructibility that trap someone inside. It's kind of like a jail basically, and it's been used on both Aelita and Yumi so far. Otherwise, it's actually a rare trick. There's finally polymorphic specters. These are clones that I think even Jeremie makes at one point. They're evil Xana clones that shapeshift into our main characters and are used quite extensively when Xana decides not to use the environment to hurt them. They're legitimately quite terrifying when you think about it because these things strangle them, throw lasers, and the next day the kids have to just come into school and see the original version like normal. Like, imagine getting electrocuted by your principal or getting strangled to death by your school nurse and having to rely on them as the adults in your life every day. That's crazy. I think almost every character has had a specter, and in Lyoko there are also times when they get evil versions of themselves. And yeah, I think that's all the creatures. For a formulaic kids show, Code Lyoko actually has some really high-stakes, good episodes. They're never boring, and there's always an interesting conflict or conflicts in them. And so I thought we can go through my favorite ones here. Distant Memory. Distant Memory is an episode about Aelita being in Caddock for the holidays since everyone is heading home to their families. This is a period of episodes where Xana is trying really hard to make her fall into the digital sea. So you might be wondering why Jeremie is even entertaining her being alone in the academy for the entirety of the break, but sure. And the way Xana attacks in this episode is by entrapping Aelita in a perfect simulation of her home with her father in it. I know it's a little cliche, but I really like stories about popping the fantasy bubble. I like seeing characters get tempted into them. It always reveals something dark about the character, that if this fantasy wasn't so perfect, they might actually fall into it forever. Marabunta. Marabunta is a fun Jeremie episode where he tries to do something helpful for his friends and it backfires miserably. Inspired from how ants work, he tries to make his own version of Xana to combat Xana, and then it attacks Aelita because at this point Aelita is connected to Xana, and then Jeremie never tries something like this again. That Jeremie isn't a godlike computer genius. I mean, he is, but even when his intentions are good, he realizes that he can create problems for his friends in Lyoko, even when he didn't mean to. Also, Marabunta is a kind of a fun episode, because like, both Xana and the Lyoko warriors have to work together to get rid of this thing that Jeremie created. I just find that kind of funny. I like that Jeremie makes mistakes and even Xana's like, God damn it, bro. A Fine Mess. This is a fun one. It's where Yumi and Odd swap bodies. I know body swap's a cliche concept too. It's not exactly inventive, but I was waiting for it in this show. It's always an inevitability in a fantasy or sci-fi kids show, and I never get sick of it. I think actors who do body swap episodes are also having more of a fun time as well. Like, you can tell they're excited to do something different with their character for once. Also, crazy choice to go with these two. Yumi and Odd are probably the least close in the cast. I like seeing Odd unable to use chopsticks in Yumi's body, so he just gets his child's work out like he doesn't look insane to her parents. Also, he definitely failed her maths test. Cold War. So I need you to really understand why I said this show is like a kid's version of I Have No Mouth, and it's because Xana tortures these kids a lot. Like, a lot. I don't think there's a single way of killing them that he hasn't tried. Quick rundown. He's done drowning, electrocution, boiling, missile, bombs, suffocation, strangulation, being mauled to death by wolves, crashing via plane, kaiju, poison gas, crushing via bulldozer, falling to death, death by rats, hornets, crows, a wild boar, ultrasound waves, laughing gas, robot armies, horror monster, lasers, crashing into a river from ambulance, zombie virus, liquidation, petrification, and there's probably more that I couldn't get into. Long story short, all of these compare little to the way characters almost go in this episode. So A.N.A tries to freeze all of the humans in Caddick to death, or the world. I actually don't know how many people get affected when he's trying to kill our main cast. Either way, A.N.A summons a blizzard somehow, and slowly but surely the situation gets more and more dire as characters attempt to manage the worsening freeze. A.N.A doesn't succeed because of Code Lyoko power of friendship or whatever, and of course time rewind powers, but let me tell you that while Lyoko shenanigans were happening, they went so hard for no reason on making the real world unbelievably miserable during this blizzard. The teachers gather students to huddle them beside a dwindling fire. They're trying desperately to keep morale up as it gets colder and colder and call for help. Odd manages to break the cold to Lyoko and has to guide Aelita alone to the tower. Meanwhile, as Ulrich and Yumi are trying to get to Lyoko, a giant tree falls down on Yumi's legs and she can't get out. So, for a whole episode run, you watch as Ulrich cries, refuses to leave her, and repeatedly tries to lift this tree off her, all while begging that she doesn't fall unconscious from the pain of her legs being crushed, or just die. He attempts to pull a chain connected to the tree, which obviously doesn't work because he's a 13-year-old boy, and the freeze is so bad that the chain just snaps in half. And it is heavily implied that Yumi eventually does fall unconscious and even dies when the return to the past is initiated. And this happens while Ulrich is cradling her body from what's left of her under the tree, and almost, or does watch the person he has been secretly harboring feelings for the last 45 episodes die. This aired on Cartoon Network, by the way. Also, the ending to this episode. Post Return to the Past is so unbelievably underwhelming. The episode fully pretends he didn't just watch one of its main child leads just die from being crushed to death in a blizzard. Anyway, highly recommend watching this episode with a younger person if you want to traumatize them. Entertaining. Nobody in particular. This is a classic sci-fi concept where one of the characters goes invisible and everyone thinks they've gone missing. Actually, is that fantasy or supernatural? Because ghost. Ulrich is the one who disappears in this one, and for a kid who seems more level-headed than Odd, he really does some dumb stuff in this episode. He possesses so many bodies. I wouldn't have been surprised if Odd was originally planned to be the one to disappear, then they realized they could probably get a lot more drama out of the story if it was Ulrich who was the one who disappeared instead. Ultimatum. A.N.A kidnaps Yumi and Odd via possession of the principal, Mr. Delmas, and sends a message to Jeremie saying that if they don't send Aelita to Lyoko to the Schifozoa in the ice sector that same day, Yumi and Odd will die. So isn't that fun? Actually, they say liquidated, which is kind of weird. I guess they can show actual electrocution, but they can't say kill. This episode is really fun for so many reasons. Firstly, since Delmas is missing, the police actually come in and launch an investigation on where the principal went, which unfortunately traps Aelita and Jeremie at the school, while Ulrich manages to escape to the factory. So while Yumi and Odd are freezing to death, being kidnapped by A.N.A, their only hope is Ulrich, the kid who can fight good in Lyoko, but definitely can't even turn on the supercomputer. I'm not going to spoil the ending, but what a great episode concept. I like the idea that after doing the same shit for so long, A.N.A's I might as well try kidnapping after absolutely nothing has killed these kids. Wrong exposure. This one is kind of funny, but you know how I said Jeremie's the smartest one in the group? This is where I can actually tell you why. So Aelita finds this photo of her pre-Lyoko where she's standing next to her father. Somehow, thanks to Odd shenanigans, this damning photo gets sent to Sissi, of all people. Sissi immediately recognizes that this is Walter Schaefer, or Franz Hopper, and alerts her father and Jim. The principal is really suspicious of them, but he himself can't work out why, because Aelita is in the photo, but she's obviously not 23 years old like she should be at present. She's the same age now as in the photo. But how? Anyway, A.N.A attacks because he has to, and the way they fix the situation is by Jeremie walking up to the principal, since the whole gang has been caught into this by now, who says, hey, think about this for more than a second. Aelita is 13 years old. She should be 23 years old if she was photographed with the now missing Franz Hopper. Aelita is not currently 23 years old. Ergo, she's not the girl in the photo. And until then, Ulrich, Yumi, Odd, and Aelita have been unable to explain anything, and I just find it really funny. Yeah, Why would the assumption be something science fictional is happening? Most people don't know about Lyoko in the first place. You're all so worried that they'll find out about Lyoko that you forgot that almost everyone in the world doesn't believe that people can get trapped in virtual worlds as immortal beings for 10 years.
What intrigues me about this photograph is the presence of both Franz Hopper and Aelita Stones, and they seem to be very close, too. And so the obvious question is whether your name is really Aelita Stones.
Yes, sir. Aelita Stones is my real name. I'm the daughter of Franz and Anthea Stones.
I have a wish list for this one too. Oh, yes, I do. Why did I say it like that? It's actually quite short this time. So, number 1 is William should die. Now, I know what you're thinking. He basically did die in Lyoko, but I want a permanent death. I want some Persona 3 kind of thing where he's just dead, never coming back, and we grieve for a few episodes here. I think Code Lyoko could have used at least one funeral. I'll be so real. William is just not an interesting character. I said this so many times already. You can read into his motivations. Like, he's hot-headed, he wants to get revenge on X.A.N.A after being possessed by him for so long, but I think he should have just died. They killed off Franz Hopper. They should have been able to kill off William. Number 2, a prom of some kind. I know this is very American, but I would have liked a prom. I think these kids deserved a prom at least once in the 4 seasons. I'll even take a party, but not a concert. I wanted a prom episode where they're all dressed up and at the prom and had to fend off a X.A.N.A attack in secret to not cause a disturbance among the students. I know there's a dance in the first episode, but I think they should have tried it again for a more significant plot-related episode. Number 3, they should have grown up each season. This is just a general thing I like saying about any kids show. I really like kids becoming adults in shows because it never gets boring for me. I just like seeing the kids grow alongside their challenges because the challenges for a 12-year-old and a 16-year-old are just so insanely different. I really like that. Number 4 is a Persona crossover. I have a conspiracy theory that Persona 3 was heavily influenced by Code Lyoko. I don't know how accurate this is, but if you look at the plot setup or you look at Furuka from P3 and compare her with Aelita, they're like insanely similar. Even their personalities. They even have like a dog to match. Isn't that crazy? Anyway, I would like it if any of the Persona cast decided to show up in France to Caddick Academy and join the Lyoko kids. I think that'd be fun. Or like a Code Lyoko game reskinned like a Persona game. They're already very similar in basic concepts. It's not too much of a stretch. Number 5, Marvel Comics. Marvel Toys released a series of Code Lyoko toys in 2006. And I don't know if they released any more after that. But regardless, I think that means that Code Lyoko exists within the fiction of Marvel. And I would like specifically an interaction between MODOK and X.A.N.A. I feel like they'd have a lot to talk about. The dubbing process for the show is actually very strange. I'm not sure if this is true, and I have only my memory from watching video essays about Code Lyoko back in the day to prove this, but it was always mentioned that the voice actors who dubbed from English to French had to be proficient in both languages due to some involvement from the dubbing studio, and that's why there are so many repeated cast members, because there's not a lot of voice actors fluent in both French and English. I remember this as something people said confidently about the show, but after researching, I haven't been able to find any notes on this, so take it with a grain of salt. If someone can confirm or not confirm this for me with a source, that would be really great. So let's get into the cast list. Sharon Man is the voice behind Jeremie and Aelita, which is funny because I think these two shared the most scenes together. She's a very formidable actress. Recently, she was on Emily in Paris, We Were the Lucky Ones, and Call My Agent. I actually thought Jeremie went through 2 different voice actors throughout the series because you'll hear a noticeable shift in his voice. In some seasons, Jeremie sounds more nasally and has a deeper voice, but in the later seasons, it relaxes into something less nasally and kiddish. So apparently Sharon Man is just a really good voice actress, and that was just her doing both voices.
And I don't know how to create an antivirus.
You've only been here an hour, but I feel like we're friends already.
The studio wanted her to match the French dub, and then they gave up, I guess. I personally prefer the one with the less nasally voice. I just find it really impressive when a voice actor can not only do children's voices, but also can switch between a young girl and a young boy voice. That's just cool to me. Voice actors are cool. Matthew Geske is the voice behind Odd and Nicholas, and Odd's voice is admittedly a lot to get used to.
I am not scrawny. I'm svelte.
It can be ear-ringingly bad at times. Thankfully, Odd grew on me, so as annoyingly high-pitched as it was, his lines were good enough to make them work. Geske is also a very talented actor and director. He's worked on a lot of French children's animation like Miraculous and Wakfu. His IMDb list is long. He seems like a jack-of-all-trades kind of guy when it comes to all kinds of TV media. Also, funnily enough, he has also been in Emily in Paris. I'm actually not surprised a lot of these bilingual voice actors were in that show. Apparently, there's only so many people who can speak French and English. Mirabelle Kirkland's voice voices an insane amount of characters in the show, but most prominently Yumi. She's also Millie and a bunch of other side characters. I actually really like Yumi's voice. It's very tender, but strong. It's a good tone for her.
What was that?
If you were a tool, which one would you choose?
Can't you think of anything less dumb to ask?
She's been doing voice acting for a few shorts and movies, famously Persepolis, and some other video games. Barbara Scaff is another very talented video games voice actress, and she's the voice for Ulrich. I think Ulrich has the best voice out of just everyone. His voice isn't broken yet, but you can hear it get deeper as the series goes on and he gets more mature.
Sissy dear, under normal conditions I would take the time to tell you to go fly a kite. But this time I'll be less polite and just ignore you. She really has fried your brain. Can't you see that she comes on strong to everyone?
He's so grumpy, but he's also such a squeaker. I love it. She also voices Kiwi, Yumi's mom, Emily. Ironic considering she's an Ulrich love interest. Hiroki, Mr. Puck, and some other minor characters. Also, Barbara Scaff is Carla Valenti in Indigo Prophecy, and a few other characters in Detroit Become Human. She's around a lot in the gaming scene, along with a lot of the other voice actors here. Jodie Forrest is the voice of Sissi. She also voiced almost every Go character in the show, next to Barbara Scaff. Quick rundown: Nicole Weber, Sam, the nurse, cafeteria lady, Johnny, and every random girl odd dates in this show. Jodie also co-narrated a documentary called Lyoko Decoded that released in 2007. It's a product of a very passionate Code Lyoko fan, Rhys Davies, who seemed to be in disbelief that they got to work with one of the voice actors in the show. She played Sissi, interrupting the narrator every now and then with her haughtiness. It's a cute watch. Also, the narrator talks about his trip to France in this documentary, and it just reminded me a lot of how very intense anime fans basically learn Japanese and become really into going or living in Japan too. Very similar energy in this documentary. Jodie Forrest has similarly been around in the voice acting scene, specifically for games and animation as well. Unfortunately, she died due to an undisclosed disease in 2017. She was really amazing from what I've seen online, and a very sad loss for the community. The music and sound design for the show is really good too. The opening song is called A World Without Danger and was composed by Justine Saint and Eagle Amar and sung in the English version by Noam Camille. It is an infamous song. It is known by people, I'll tell you that much. And it is a very earnest song with a lot of autotune. Frighteningly bad is another way to put it. I don't know why I'm speaking in circles around it. It's bad. I skip it every time and it's really long. I think giving it lyrics was unnecessary, and especially for the tone of the show, it didn't need to be so weirdly optimistic and cute. Really doesn't match the intensity of the series, I think. It would have been better if it was just instrumental. I know some people are very protective and defensive about this theme song. I understand you, but don't come for me, please. I can just never forget the way the singer is like, Code Lyoko. Like, he says it in such a like specific way. And I think that's what made people remember it so well. But it's such an insane way to sing that part. I do like a lot of the background music in this show though, especially this one called Friendship or Amitié that usually rounds off episodes. It's very pleasant to listen to.
We said we'd wait till after vacation.
Yeah, I know. Here, Einstein, this one's for you. Since Anna made us come back earlier than expected, why wait, right?
For a sci-fi show, I think the music fits really well. It's just that opening. The animation in the show is not amazing, but the style is really cool. I like that it's so distinct and easy to recognize. Characters are really cute to me, and the cast all believably look like kids and adults. There is a bit of a case of same face syndrome here. That's something we definitely can't deny. There are a lot of reused shots in the first season especially. It can get pretty egregious, particularly the shots where they're getting virtualized in the scanners, which are actually quite beautiful shots. I don't mind watching them each time. There's also the shot of them skateboarding or scootering through the sewers that gets used to an obnoxious degree. I get it. All of them can skateboard, and it's cool that they can skateboard. We don't need to cut to it in every damn episode. The 2D animation was also done by Animation Services Hong Kong Limited with Fantasia Animation and Welkin Animation, who worked on the first 2 seasons of the show. All the 3D stuff was done by Ante Films in Paris. I'll be honest, I think the 2D animation is pretty stiff, but the characters themselves use very sharp, rectangular straight lines, so it kind of works in a weird way despite the robotic movement. In the pilot of the show, the animation quality is phenomenal. There's a lot of frames, so you can actually see what the show would look like if the budget wasn't so restrictive. Unfortunately, there aren't a lot of shots I've seen from this show that can be deemed sakuga. Pardon my French. Season 4 definitely sees a bump in quality, but the movement isn't that different. The grandest set pieces are in 3D animation instead. Colossus animation, all their final battles in Lyoko, are where the animation is at its most carefully constructed. I think they really missed out on using these 2D animators' talent to their full potential. Okay, Okay, so the video isn't over yet, somehow. I think we're only halfway through. Okay, there's a 5th season. I didn't know how to drop this news on you, but I had to. There's a 5th season of Code Lyoko, and it's terrible. It's garbage. I'd rather die than rewatch it, but I did. For all of you. You're welcome, by the way. I have a Patreon. Please help my sanity. The reason the 5th season sucks is because it is live action, and also the writing is really bad. Look, for as great as the finale is, Code Lyoko did end very abruptly. You can feel it as you get to the 4th season. The sense that there are character arcs that still need wrapping up, that it felt too easy the way they defeated A.N.A, and the quick death of Franz Hopper. It's not entirely a bad thing. Like, I always felt like Gravity Falls' ending was abrupt, but it's still a great show to watch from start to finish. I still feel that way about Code Lyoko. Like, it ended a bit too soon, but I'm more than happy to rewatch the whole thing and have a great time. When I watched it for the first time, though, because of this, I was a little more desperate for more Code Lyoko, and also I was learning French at the time, so I decided to watch the 5th season. Consensus, it's bad. It's so bad. You might as well just not think of it as canon. First of all, why live action? The animation in the 4th season was really good. You can tell there was a bigger budget and they were working their way up. So why was you shipped to this ugly-ass live action so suddenly and at the last minute? It looks like an episode of iCarly with a yellow filter. Why would you think this looked good? Also, the 3D models don't look anything like the actors, so the transformation between both mediums looks considerably worse. The models match the 2D animation. That's why it worked there. Not incredibly, but it worked. Here they look like they transform into PJ Masks for some reason. Like, these 20-year-olds playing high schoolers revert in age in Lyoko, and it just doesn't look cool. They should have at least made the style more realistic, maybe like Miraculous Ladybug, but instead, it just looks like they're in Cocomelon. The costumes in Lyoko also look worse. They're indistinguishable from each other. What made Code Lyoko fun was that the characters had unique clothes in that world that matched their personalities. Odd is a freaky cat boy, Aelita is like Tekna from Winx, Ulrich is a loner like a samurai, and Yumi is a Japanese-themed warrior. It's not mind-bending character design, but it's fun. It kind of incites people to want to create their own Lyoko versions of their own characters. And then this season decides that Tron is the best direction to take it in. The lighting is garbage. The directing is terrible. The set pieces look fake. Everything is way too zoomed in. I'd almost say I'd rather watch the Avatar live-action TV show instead, which is a big deal. There was something really comfy about the original Code Lyoko. They really felt like kids, and it hit a lot harder when they were getting attacked by A.N.A because everything around them was so big and imposing. The art was also beautiful, the backgrounds were so immersive, and it really carried you into this world of old academia and sci-fi. God, I'm so mad. I should tell you how this came to be, shouldn't I? I need to calm down. I need to restart the section. Code Lyoko Evolution is the official, unofficial 5th season of Code Lyoko, released in 2013, around 6 years from the finale of the animated show. It's French, and looks terrible, and nobody looks like they're in high school. And this is worse than the CW. Look, I tried, okay? It's so hard to be positive about the show. Also, Jesus, Ulrich, that is some growth spurt. You're even taller than Yumi now. Sophie Dickwazette doesn't deem evolution canon, so I actually don't know why it's in the wiki. I guess some fans like it. Or maybe since it's just one writer who said this and doesn't speak for the others, it might still be canon? I have no idea at this point. Here's the rundown, because the season is actually back to basics with Code Lyoko. A.N.A's back, even though they shut down the supercomputer last season. He's also stronger than ever because he's affecting our heroes without the supercomputer even being turned on. So how? How is A.N.A back? Basically, he inserted his source codes into our main cast of Yumi, Ulrich, Odd, and Aelita when he was defeated, so he's attempting to retrieve the codes from our heroes physically in the real world to really return after already returning. He's not actually in Lyoko. It's also implied that he managed to save himself in another virtual location when he was almost erased last season. Despite this, he still needs the source codes he stored in our 4 heroes to be up to world domination again. And that's the plot of this whole show. The new thing since the last season is codes. We need to ensure that we make these codes unusable or kill A.N.A again. But they don't really do that. They're on the defensive against A.N.A for this season. A.N.A keeps coming in to try to steal their codes with these creatures called specters, and the gang has to go to Lyoko to stop A.N.A from letting them get stolen and deactivate the towers that had activated the specter that tried to steal their codes in real life. So essentially we're back to season 1 plots again. We actually do see the consequence of what happens if A.N.A gets all the codes from someone. It happens to Odd first, and as a result, he can't deactivate towers anymore. It's actually an important thing I forgot to mention. All the characters can deactivate towers now, not just Aelita. Since the show's not animated anymore, it's actually really limiting and boring to see what A.N.A can do now. The new thing he can create are these specters, which are evil clones of people in the real world, and they just kind of walk towards our heroes and hold out their hand like they're about to take the codes, and That's it. I need you to understand, Xana was able to possess the entire factory at one point. He was also able to create multiple zombie apocalypses in the school and manufacture a deadly blizzard. It's so ridiculous that the most he can think to create now is like one child who randomly hugs people. Also, William should love hovering now, since he knows their secret and pretty much brute forces his way into joining the group again. I do appreciate his persistence, but this is another thing I don't really understand about William. Like, why, man? Why do you want to be part of this group so bad? As a vengeance thing against Xana, I understand. But you remember nothing from your time being possessed with him. You have the same level of interest in joining the group from before you joined to now. I really don't get what you think you have to offer here. William's just as boring as he was in the animated show. He's just more of an edgy boy this season, but he's so forgettable.
Yumi, tu déjeunes avec moi aujourd'hui? Non, désolé, je peux pas aujourd'hui.
Girl, maybe he just doesn't want to have lunch with you. There is also another character I failed to mention, and this is a Code Lyoko Evolution special character. Her name is Laura Gautier. I need you to understand how pointless this character is, so let me describe to you from the creators themselves why they thought she needed to exist. This is a quote from Lucio Duverza and Florian Ferrier, who worked on Code Lyoko Evolution. Laura, she's the new arrival. Her determination to join the group is going to cause a mess, because she is going to ask questions that should not be asked, and put herself right in the middle of the sentimental connections between the characters. She's even going to bring her own bit of discord into one of the relationships. Besides that, she's the female equivalent of Jeremie. So you added a female version of an existing character, made her solely to be an obstacle, and then called this a necessity for the show. Oh my god. This is like when Love Island brings in bombshells, and the only reason they're brought in is because they're very obviously bait for the guys and girls to test their current relationships, and only a real idiot falls for it. That's what Laura is in this show. A very utilitarian character with very little reason to exist. We do not need another child super genius in this show. We already have 3. We also do not need another child antagonist in this show that's going to mess up their social dynamics. We have William and Sissi. The reason I'm going so hard on this is also because a female equivalent of Jeremie already exists. Her name is Aelita. She pretty much matches him in intelligence, and they're very obviously paired together. Also, Aelita is extremely interesting as a character. She is the core of the plot. Answering her answers all the questions in the show. Laura, meanwhile, adds nothing to the story, embarrassingly so. Laura in the animated show would be a one-off character brought in for drama and then immediately discarded by the next episode. Probably also while being an odd girlfriend. But she's like a series regular in this season. She keeps coming back for drama, and it's just so stupid. It really doesn't work at all. At one point, her and William team up, like at both of us being outcast from the group. And you're just embarrassing. You're both just acting like Sissi did in the original show. Weirdly insecure and resentful that these kids have a cool underground club going on that you want to join. They also very obviously whitewash a character in this show. This is Sam, one of Odd's many girlfriends, and he was actually quite interested in dating her at the end of the 4th season. And this seems quite clearly to be the same Sam. How about we play a little spot the difference here? Why did they even do that? Oh my god. There's already not a lot of black characters in the original show. Like, oh, what were they thinking? The interview I just mentioned is also an interesting read because the original team for Code Lyoko are stated to have not been very involved in this project at all. They were regarded while writing some of the first few episodes, but they're barely involved in the project and left it to their live-action writers instead. And I can't imagine writing characters for 4 whole seasons and then having to pawn them off to these guys. That must really suck. We actually have one more antagonist this season besides Xana, a man by the name of Professor Tyrone. He is about as threatening as a villain from 60s Batman. Why they decided that a mad scientist is the most compelling villain after we literally had a god-tier, super genius computer virus is absolutely beyond me. This is like if we were introduced to Bill Cipher before Gideon Gleeful in Gravity Falls, or like had Red John as the first villain in The Mentalist before Richard Highback. Wait, that actually did happen. It was kind of stupid. So Franz Hopper had a tiff with Tyrone a long time ago while working together, since Tyrone was using their work for terrible purposes. And then it turns out Tyrone is the guy who's responsible for Xana's return this time. Great, thanks Tyrone. Turns out he's been here at some point during Hopper working on X.A.N.A, the supercomputer, and never mentioned him. Need to remind you, Hopper had an extensive video diary describing in detail what he did every single day during his creation of Lyoko and X.A.N.A. He just never thought to mention he had a partner for a little bit. Even if they broke up, there should still be some footage of when he mentioned it. Anyway, Tyrone had these ninjas that showed up. Like, the creatures apparently weren't interesting enough. We need these weird guys to show up and screw our plans. Also, he's not friends with X.A.N.A. He didn't actually facilitate our favorite concentric circles or turn. Tyrone had his own supercomputer in Switzerland and created the Cortex. This is where X.A.N.A anchored himself to after his defeat in season 4. It's very unclear why Tyrone created this place, but it's probably after his breakup with Franz Hopper. The only thing really mentioned is that he wants to use the Cortex to further his ambition, but we don't know what that means. Like, what is he actually trying to do? Is he trying to take over the world or create the metaverse to get lots of money from the Cortex? Either way, he's not friends with X.A.N.A, but since the easiest way for the kids to be rid of him is by shutting down specifically Tyrone's supercomputer, Tyrone doesn't want to do that since it's destroying his entire life's work, which we don't know what it is. Also, he kind of refuses to believe that X.A.N.A is actually that powerful, which after enough returns to the past, kind of makes sense. One thing I do appreciate about the live action is that they mention that the characters have a cooldown period between entering Lyoko and exiting, which is something that they never mentioned in the original animated series that always annoyed me. Like, they'd materialize in the real world and then just not go back into Lyoko again. I thought that was such an obvious thing that never got explained. Or maybe I missed it between all the other explanations in the show. Also, I forgot to mention, but the writers got rid of the forest and ice sector in the season. The explanation given by Jeremie is that those locations just weren't in use and they got destroyed. I think the better explanation is that they just didn't want to build those giant 3D sets. I guess snow is quite difficult to pull off in 3D if you want a realistic movement and texture for it, and all the foliage you'd have to make for the forest sector would probably be a little tedious. I really don't understand what kind of budget they were working with here, because it had to have been more than the original show. Speaking of locations, let's talk a little bit about the Cortex. It doesn't look that different from Sector 5, to be honest, just the same thing except yellow and more manic in its changing landscape. They make a new vehicle for this location similar to the skid called the Megapod, which I actually really like. I like seeing them drive it around. Anyway, finale, or I guess the real finale of Code Lyoko. So the kids are still trying to defeat Tyrone, but more importantly to Aelita, they've been trying to find her mother. Anthea was one of the most obvious loose ends from the original show, like, we know what happened to Franz, but what happened to Anthea? Turns out Anthea has been getting busy with Tyrone, and Tyrone is now Aelita's stepfather. I'd rather X.A.N.A be her stepfather. I'd rather Darth Vader drop by on his Death Star and tell Aelita he's her stepfather. Tyrone turns out to be the one who kidnapped Anthea and married her, and Anthea has been spending her time there trying to get in contact with her daughter again, and failing miserably. So, conclusion. Tyrone shuts down the Cortex, controlled by a supercomputer, while everyone except Yumi is still in it, so Yumi thinks all of her friends are dead, but turns out they materialized just in time. How lucky. They did not need to do this fake out. These kids have, like, platinum level plot armor. They get what they wanted for his supercomputer to get shut down, but it also means closing the book on any more answers for Aelita. It's a little bittersweet. Deciding it's safer if X.A.N.A wasn't active, they go back and shut down the supercomputer and are like, if we get picked up for another season, we'll come back and do more stuff, which is exactly what you want to hear from the main character after a very mediocre finale. A complete apathy over their current situation. And that's Code Lyoko Evolution, a terrible, boring mess. And you would definitely be better off reading fanfiction, because fanfiction is definitely better. I had to also mention, but the intro to this show, low-key kind of sucks. It has none of the earnestness the animated one did. That was cringy, but this is worse. I don't want this. Get it away from me. I want to also give credit to this channel, staff, Code Lyoko. They were absolutely strenuous in uploading anything to do with Code Lyoko Evolution. There was a real concerted effort to hype up this reboot of the show and bring it back to its former glory. It's obvious that after the original show ended, that the hype never died down until Code Lyoko Evolution was. There are some presentations that were uploaded on the Code Lyoko FR page that also show how much the team were trying to push Code Lyoko up with this huge marketing scheme and having Code Lyoko Evolution at its center. There's interviews with the live-action cast, live streams, lots of footage, and pictures taking of their signings at cons, and it seemed like it was very intent on promoting it as best as it could. But ultimately, I think Code Lyoko Evolution will always be in the shadow of the original animated show. So despite there being a whole forgettable 5th season that was introduced, Code Lyoko actually had sequel novels released in 2009 following the finale of the show called The Code Lyoko Chronicles. These have varying canonicity, but I believe one of the writers of the show had some involvement. It's up to you, depending on how much you like these novels. They're written by David Morosinoto in Italian originally, and expand on a lot of mystery of the original series. On the cover, they're said to be written by Jeremie himself, though. They were published by a company called Atlantica, but translations were hard to get since the sales weren't so great on this. Eventually the fans got onto translating them, which is the only reason people have access to them internationally right now. Atlantica is also the company that owned Geronimo Stilton, whose books also had that weird feature of putting the author as one of the characters in the books. There's actually a really good video essay about these sequel novels and Code Lyoko Evolution from the channel Commander Wolf. It's a really great video, so if you have more hours to kill after this one, I would highly recommend it. It goes a lot deeper into the Code Lyoko sequels than I do. It also goes into the weirdness of choosing between Code Lyoko Evolution and the novels on how you want to proceed with with the story past the original finale. I have read all these novels because this video isn't long enough apparently. What I really like about them is that they really don't care about William. Like, he barely exists in these. And it's great, thank you. I need to stop going so hard on William. Like, he really isn't that bad. We're told that Aelita and Jeremie are both 13 years old during the events of this first novel, but that would mean all the previous 4 seasons of the show happened over the course of 1 school year, and I just can't believe that. I actually refuse to. I refuse to believe 13-year-olds went through all of that. That just makes me sad. The novels tie up a lot of loose ends, particularly relating to Waldo Schaefer. You can kind of feel the sense while watching the show that the writers really wanted to expand more on his deal, and was just finding it really difficult to due to its limitations as a kids show. The first novel is strange, but essentially the kids leave for break and everything seems normal at first, but when they do, Aelita just loses all her memories. Everything related to X.A.N.A and her past is all gone. Again. Why would you make her go through this again, man? The kids manage over the break to get some of her memories back, especially of them, but anything to do with Lyoko and her father are gone. And so they decide to investigate again to see what's gone wrong this time, if X.A.N.A's back or not, etc. I actually am not a huge fan of the setup. I think the live action handled the return of X.A.N.A better. I just think it's a tired trick to make Aelita lose her memories again. It's not very interesting. I think it would have been more interesting if only one character remembered everything, and all her or their friends forget, leaving them to pick up the pieces on their own. This book also introduces a new character, an American girl called Ava Skinner, who transferred to Caddick. I'm not lying, it sounds like fanfiction written by an American teenager about Code Lyoko, but she's really here. She gets possessed by X.A.N.A, whose big plan is to take this American girl who speaks English all the way to France, away from all her family and friends. She's 13, by the way. This makes perfect sense. To, like, join the group and kill them at Caddick, I guess? I don't know about that. I think that'd be a startlingly obvious murder. Ava eventually gets unpossessed, but it's way later, all the way in the 4th book. But then she has no memory of even getting on a plane to France, so she wakes up, and I believe it's the Mirror, or the First City, I don't remember. But she's in the virtual world, looking at virtualized Ulrich and Jeremie. Extremely confused. It's strange because until then, Ava has the exact same functional purpose as William. She's also deployed to cause drama in the relationships of the characters, but also to get possessed by X.A.N.A for easy betrayals. But yeah, William is basically only mentioned once and then never again in the series. Also, Ava is Odd's love interest, which is strange considering I thought it was Sam. So, Sam didn't get whitewashed in the sequel, but she was replaced by a white female love interest. Even Code Lyoko isn't saved from the disposable black girlfriend trope, huh? So, Franz Hopper or Waldo Schaefer communicates to them beyond the grave for the millionth time, this time to repeat the thing about Project Carthage. It was a project him and his wife worked on now. They defected when they realized it was being used for evil, and apparently it was made to create a lethal weapon. And that lethal weapon is X.A.N.A. I know, it always seemed the case, but the show strangely always presented them as 2 separate things. I guess Hopper just never came to terms with the fact that he helped build X.A.N.A with Project Carthage. Also in the books we do get to meet Anthea, who was kidnapped by the Green Phoenix, I think? Honestly, I was in and out towards the last books. They were really long and a little boring to get through. It's a fun read if you're interested. I think the first 2 are solid, and the second 2 are, like, epic in scope. There's a lot happening in them. There's a whole finale in book 3 where Yumi and Odd have to deal with the school being overrun by robots and stuff. X.A.N.A's probably the most interesting thing here. He becomes best friends with Aelita, and then the finale of the book series is him becoming a real boy like all of them. So I don't know about that. Here's my review. I think it's definitely better than Evolution, but I wouldn't read it again. Only the first or second book, maybe. And that there's just, like, a lot of adults getting involved, which I don't really like. Like, it turns out all of the main cast's parents are also involved in Project Carthage by incredible coincidence. There are a bunch of known names I don't really care about, and yeah. You can read it if you're interested in more Code Lyoko, but I might suggest still sticking to fanfiction. Also, I know this is random, but just really funny to me personally. In book 2, there's a section describing Yumi's house, and it feels like reading those really bad, unnecessarily detailed English subs in anime. The interior of the house was furnished in an oriental style, as well as chairs and a table of conventional height. There was also a lower table, around which cushions were arranged on which to kneel, and in the bedrooms, there were no beds, but instead futons, thin Japanese mattresses laid directly onto the wooden floor, or a tatami. I don't know why they added that section. Maybe they thought kids wouldn't know what futons are. Here are some other lines that I liked from books 3 and 4, which has X.A.N.A as more of a character. Like, you can hear his thoughts more. Anyway, yeah. I have nothing more to say about the books. Are they perfect? God, no. Are they a fun read for Code Lyoko fans from a character perspective? For sure. Also, I need to mention one more thing. There's this character called Richard Dupuis who shows up, I think, in book 2, who is 23 years old and suddenly has a lot of memories of Aelita. It's explained that he went to school with Aelita at Caddick 10 years ago before she disappeared. And he shows up and sees her still 13 years old and is like, whoa, what's happening here? And I know that Aelita was trapped in that virtual body for 10 years and never aged, but doesn't that mean when the kids go to Lyoko, they're frozen there, meaning they're all aging slower than their classmates? Also, I'm surprised nobody wanted to take advantage of the fact you can be basically immortal in Lyoko without X.A.N.A, but sure. Okay, anyway, yeah, just a fun shower thought. There's also another bunch of books that retell the story of the show that were produced by Moonscoop themselves. Just thought I'd mention that briefly. Apparently the fans don't like these because they misspell a lot of character names and are not very fun to read compared to watching the show. I'm starting to realize that I may never finish this video, and I'm beginning to make peace with it, which honestly worries me. So the Code Lyoko magazine, which I honestly can't believe was a thing, I just didn't know the show was so popular that it could have its own magazine, released little comic stories about our heroes set, I think, just throughout the show, maybe post-season 2. The Code Lyoko magazine was released by Panini Comics, who regularly publish comics with some popular IPs like Marvel and some Disney characters. The magazine wasn't just this comic, there are other character buys and information relating to the show. I managed to get access to the entire magazine, and I'll get into that in a little bit. Let's just start off with the comics for now. There are a total of 5 stories published that I last read in high school. They're still on the codelyoko.fr website if you want to download or read them. This website just has everything. I should have made this video 5 seconds long with just a direct link to the website and a fade to black. These comics are really cute. Characters are incredibly expressive, more so than in the show, in fact. You can really see what the style could be if the show was just animated with a better budget and a bit more freedom. I also like that since they can't do 3D for the scenes in Lyoko, they changed the line art color. I thought it was a simple but effective way to separate the two worlds in comic form. The shading is also different. There's cell shading in the real world and soft shading in the virtual. It lends to that effect as well. The first story is called Shaken, and it's where, Aelita loses her memories again. This isn't actually the plot of the issue, though. The real plot is that the factory is getting demolished out of nowhere and the kids have to band together to stop it. It's a lot shorter than a whole episode of the show, and to be honest, they never explain why Aelita lost her memories. But I liked it. I'll give it a solid 3 out of 5. The second is Apis Sapiens, the bees issue. Yumi's face becomes a bee. And that's the most I'm willing to note about it. 2 out of 5. The third issue is a true breakage skater, and it has no X.A.N.A, so I have no idea why it's here. It's very short and centers on this character called Taluma and Odd's skateboarding ability. I think the artist just begged the writer if they could draw some skateboarding scenes. Fair enough for a story only 10 pages, though. 3 out of 5. The fourth issue, The Best of Both Worlds, is probably the only one worth reading. It's about Jeremie's inadequacies at sport, which causes him to pull an Ulrich and Brood in the factory when X.A.N.A launches an attack, and has him virtualize in Lyoko accidentally. He's in this weird pixelated form, which actually implies that if you don't have an avatar or a model created, this is what humans look like by default in Lyoko. I think that's just a cool piece of lore I thought was fun to share. 4 out of 5. The final issue is called Yumi, the Subdigitals groupie. It's another one without X.A.N.A, just a short mini issue, and it really adds a lot to Yumi as a character. Yumi tends to be disregarded throughout the show, and it's mainly because she's the voice of reason. Characters who are the voice of reason have a habit to blend into the background during exciting story moments since they have to be shackled to that role and prevent shenanigans or too crazy plans. So Yumi enters a contest to be part of a Subdigitals clip. It's strangely vague, but she has to compete with 2 other contestants, including Sissi, to be in the clip. And she doesn't really want to do it, but when her friends say that she's too serious all the time, she joins the contest to prove them wrong. And this is maybe the only time Yumi ever does anything of her own volition, or is motivated by something, I think. I'm trying to think of another time she's really had an active role in the story where she's the center of it. It really doesn't happen that often. Usually bad things happen to her and she has to deal with it, like William flirting with her or her parents' marital issues. I'll be happy to be proven wrong, though. This one's a 4 out of 5 for me. I can't go too deep into talking about games from the show since I don't play games, so I can't tell you if they're good and playable, and also I don't know how you play these, to be honest. The only game I play is Muse Dash, and I'm not even at Gargora's level with it. Code Lyoko was already kind of made to be a game with the whole virtual world concept, so yeah, here they are. We have Code Lyoko Get Ready to Virtualize, Code Lyoko Quest for Infinity, and Code Lyoko Fall of X.A.N.A. Here is footage I took from YouTube to show what happens in them with credits. From my understanding, understanding, Get Ready to Virtualize is based on episodes of the show and isn't like its own thing. The gameplay seems like its most important feature. Quest for Infinity is all in Lyoko, and I don't believe there's any kind of story at all. And Fall of X.A.N.A is just about saving William from X.A.N.A and then killing X.A.N.A. Probably the most interesting storyline for the show since there's no personal stakes involved in saving William. The games also come with their own sets of X.A.N.A creatures who you may, again, check out if you're interested. If someone else wants to jump in and make an analysis on the games, please write it. I will watch. I don't have the games and I've never played the games. Let's get physical and talk about the Code Lyoko card game now. Yes, there was a card game involved in this show as well. It was released in 2006 between seasons 2 and 3 when the show was really gaining popularity. The game was produced in collaboration with a company called France Cot, and there were a total of 166 cards released. As per the 2000s, these cards were kind of spread around everywhere. Some you could obtain from Petit Louis, which was a French cheese company, or you could get it from the magazine or other promotional material being released at the time. You can no longer purchase these card sets, so if you have one, hang on to it or sell it off to pay your mortgage. It's up to you which is more important. Or if you have better internet investigative skills than me, you can probably find them somewhere to purchase them. The card types are divided into hero, extra, equipment, location, action, event, danger, and surprise. The hero cards feature the main cost and are double-sided, so it has both the Lyoko and real-life form on either side, except Jeremie. Jeremie's in the real world on either side, but on one he's just more locked in, I guess. This is a 2+ player game that involves our hero is trying to defeat X.A.N.A. There are a lot of rules, 12 pages worth, and it's strangely intense. You have no idea how much French I had to remember to read these. Essentially, the goal of the game is whoever reaches 20 points or VP can get Jeremie to launch a return to the past, while also ensuring that you don't have below 0 points, in which case you're defeated by X.A.N.A. Also, it seems to imply that you need the locked-in Jeremie to launch a return to the past, so that seems like a bit of an overpowered or even necessary card to have to play this game. I might be missing something here though. I'm not particularly great at game rules. Also, this got a chuckle out of me. There's a card called Skipping School, which wins you a point and has a screen cap from the show where the kids are cheering. I don't know what lessons the French want to impart to their children here. Honestly, if you're trying to kill an evil sentient super virus, it's probably a good idea to skip school. There are some other character cards here. For some reason, Johnny is here. He was in one episode, guys. I don't think he's important enough for the card game, to be honest. Anyway, I want to play this. It looks fun. I think I really would have enjoyed collecting all of them, and it seems pretty well thought out from a game perspective, too. There are some more cards that were released post this game, but they seem to be a kind of collector's edition type thing. There's no rules or structure or even game involved. There's also a Spanish board game that was released pretty late, actually, in 2010. There's no English translation, so unfortunately we can't play it, but the way it's set up looks really interesting. The sectors are shown like rings, where you have to go deeper and deeper in until you reach Sector 5. The objective is to obtain Franz Hopper's diary and defeat X.A.N.A, which is thankfully unique. Most games usually do saving William or just defeating X.A.N.A. I'm checking out the rules, it looks fun. I'd like to play this game. Since the series did really well internationally, this resulted in some spin-off Code Lyoko production becoming very difficult to find and a little scattered all over the internet. And so I've compiled whatever I find here just randomly. There's no structure or theme running here, it's chaos. Merch is the easiest thing to start with. I think anything to do with Code Lyoko is defunct now. I'm pretty sure there's nothing in production anymore officially. There's the usual suspects with Etsy and Redbubble that sell mostly rip-off merch of Code Lyoko. Amazon had the first seasons on DVD and some books, though they're in French and Spanish, and there's a little detail about any of them. Unfortunately, to get anything like t-shirts, magnets, stickers, or posters, you'll just have to go to Redbubble or Etsy. To find anything that was sold by the actual company, you'll have to look at reselling listings on eBay. And on eBay, I found what I'd already mentioned, these toys from Marvel Toys, DVDs of the seasons, music CDs, and so on. I did find this toy Cankrolot that I kind of wanted until I saw it cost $141 minus shipping. Good God. I also found this toy of Ulrich being in a scanner, and it looks so funny to me if you don't know anything about the show. Just a little French boy in a changing room. During the height of its popularity, there were obviously a lot of random stuff getting produced with this branding, but since it was the 2000s, a lot of this is in an age long gone now. May I present to you Code Lyoko toppers? Spin toppers? Anyway, they have the characters' faces on them, and their color kind of matches up with their color in the show. Look at this board that nobody probably owns anymore, and if they are, they're definitely trying to get rid of it right now. If you're a sporty kid, there's bikes, scooters, skateboards, obviously. There's walkie-talkies that probably don't work. I'll be happy to be proven wrong. There's a Lego ripoff of the Code Lyoko characters where they're not doing the thing they usually do and look very not like themselves. Good God, there's Guess Who, a Code Lyoko themed game console, cups, cafe press merch, and probably more, but that's about how much I'm able to research right now. Also, I saw this Code Lyoko themed trivia quiz book pop up a few times on Amazon by someone named Jack Ruiz, and I got it into my head head that I'd heard this name before in relation to Moonscoop Productions, so I assumed that the company released a trivia quiz game. But I was wrong, and Jack Ruiz is just this guy on Amazon who's made like so many trivia quizzes for various shows with varying quality, might I add. And I think that's just his thing. He sells these somehow legally. Sorry if I'm calling you out, Jack. And this was feeding your family and I just exposed you on YouTube. It's okay, there's a high chance you won't, or a lot of people won't see this, don't worry. I'd also like to take this opportunity to very quickly mention a Code Lyoko stage play from Spain, Madrid. This was so hard to find footage of, but in 2011, in Teatro Arena, there was a live show of a bunch of different TV series presented by the Spanish children's channel Clan TV, which was operated by RTVE, or Televisión Española. This was called El Festival del Clan, and I'm unsure how many shows were run or if it was ever done again after 2011. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to find footage of the Code Lyoko show, but I got Lazy Town and every other show except Code Lyoko somehow. I also got some behind the scenes images from a Reddit user, but otherwise not much has been documented about it. I'm very curious about the storylines for this show. I'm assuming it was something very basic since there were other plays on, and regardless of what the story was, it had to end in this festive dance sequence. I like the energy. It scares me, but I like the energy. Oh my god, are those the Koala Brothers? I'm very curious about how live shows from kids series come to be. Like, who approves them? And why? I feel like they're so scary. I, as a kid, would have been terrified of these masks or giant heads. It's strange. There's also a Code Lyoko attraction that was made and featured in the Futuroscope amusement park, X.A.N.A du Poitou, France. I really hope I didn't butcher that. I've seen footage advertising this attraction, and it doesn't look incredibly appealing. I'm no theme park enthusiast, alright? I'm no Jenny Nicholson. I've never had the magical desire of ever wanting to go to Disney World or Universal, but I can tell a little bit when something doesn't look fun. And a bunch of kids in a ball pit and one lone TV showing clips of the show isn't interesting. From what I read about Futuroscope's plan for this attraction, I believe there's 2 sections, one below for lower age kids and one above for higher age kids. Why did I say lower age kids like I was dissing them? God, this video is getting way too long. Another bit of footage I found showed Futuroscope as well, but it seemed more behind the scenes, since this was when casting was being done for Code Lyoko Evolution. The kids are shuffling in through these narrow hallways and posing in front of a green screen to, I assume, read for the part. Also, shout out to this incredible moment where there's this guy sketching what you would assume to be a Code Lyoko version of this kid, or just a drawing, and then he just flips the sketchbook down and doesn't show you what the result is. I don't know what that shot was for. Maybe he was taking notes. Just very confused on why it was shown. I also need to mention the magazines. These are the same magazines I mentioned before from when I was talking about the comics. They're a fun read, though I probably wouldn't have wanted to read them so extensively as a kid since I was watching the show already, and there is some repetitive information. Since this was prior to dominating internet usage, though, I understand why this was the closest thing some kids had to a fan wiki back then. There's these sections where Jeremie narrates over a science experiment to teach kids about how science works, and that's cute. The other characters also inform the reader about interests they have relating to them. Like, Ulrich has a page where he explains what Kung Fu is, and Yumi talks about what a kimono is, and Aelita just talks about every single website they made for the show that are all pretty much inaccessible now. There's puzzles, some websites they made for this show, including this blog written by X.A.N.A, which is unfortunately no longer available. I desperately need to know what posts they had on there. Also, who was the guy getting paid to roleplay as X.A.N.A? Where are they now? What are they up to? Also, apparently the Subdigital's members are all between 19 to 21 years old. They're all younger than me. And no, man, I refuse to believe it. These are all men in their mid to late 20s at best. Like, what do you mean that this guy is 20? There's a lot of products here too, which is inevitable for a magazine, but there's actually not a lot of Code Lyoko branded things here. I think they were maybe sponsored by a few companies to promote things, like these teleglasses or this rubber. Oh, good God, I haven't seen a Tamagotchi since I was actually 5 years old. Jesus, that's a throwback. So the Code Lyoko fandom, from what I've seen, are incredibly dedicated people and a little older. The show started and ended in the 2000s, so it would follow that fans are mostly adults these days. It's barely been noticed by any younger generations or even watched by them, despite the show being up on YouTube for free. It's kind of a shame, since it doesn't seem like the fan intensity wasn't as high as between that period of the finale and Evolution being released. Also, when I say dedicated, let me just say, I have been in a lot of fandoms. I've grown up in fandom culture since I could access the internet. I've seen the loyalty and fierceness of Stan Twitter, Stan Tumblr. I've seen the intensity of fanfic writers, artists, cosplayers. I was even in the Genshin community for a while, for goodness sake. And I need you to understand that absolutely none of the fandoms I have ever been in even approach to the undying devotion of Code Lyoko fans. And you would think this is a bad thing, but no, this fan community is also one of the absolute healthiest I've ever seen. There is no drama as far as I'm aware, no one is particularly cruel, there's no huge arguments about the morality of character decisions or the show's admittedly badly aged moments. Everyone is reasonable, calm, and very sane about every discussion they have. It is probably the safest fandom you could be in currently if you want something low-key and with a lot, and I mean a lot of fan media to access. By the way, I know this video is reaching 3 hours already. I'm sweating thinking about having to record this soon, but even this video will not be able to cover how many things there are here. And this section, which is already quite long, will not be able to quantify the scope of how many fan works are out there. And good, detailed, and incredibly well-made fan works. I really, really recommend watching the show and chilling out with the fans that are here right now. They're really wonderful. And they care so much about the show, and not in an insane way, which is kind of rare these days. Code Lyoko also has a huge international community, like I mentioned before. I've seen so many varieties in the type of fans interested in the series, and whenever they make any kind of fan content, they always ensure there's a French, English, and any other translation available. I'm aware that it also has a significant fan base in Serbia as well. I've never seen such harmony between different countries for one fandom before, or such widespread appeal for a piece of media like this. It's really cool. I love it. Also, I have to point this out. People keep saying that there's a big following in Japan for Code Lyoko, and while there may have been a following, I don't think it was big, especially since it only had the first 2 seasons dubbed and released there. And I also think what's confusing people is this 2013 Japan Expo event that Code Lyoko had a part in, but a Japan Expo is an expo about Japan, not in Japan. This was in Paris, Villepinte. I think Frederator also got it wrong in their 107 facts, so sad to disprove them, I guess. Also, I don't know why Code Lyoko was even in that expo. I guess it's anime inspired, so it got a pass there. Anyway, moving on, that's just my personal gripe. Code Lyoko is conceptually pretty perfect for a fandom. Science fiction tends to be, since it usually involves dystopia or threats that are man-made that invite interesting philosophical arguments about the nature of humanity and what our focus should be in developing humanity, which are arguments that are always going to be relevant to people no matter what era we're in. Do we prioritize efficiency or empathy? Why are we creating things? What is their purpose? Are we planting the seeds for our own self-destruction due to our obsession with monetary value or our constant pursuit of happiness? Anyway, Code Lyoko is also fun because you can make a lot of original characters really easily. You can design your own virtual avatars with no limits, and when it comes to your middle schooler design, everyone dresses like a Disney Channel character in the 2000s, so it's a matter of mostly color swapping. The style is also easy to replicate, so some fan artists even like redesigning the original characters too, though that's a habit with many cartoons from the 2000s era. It's also fun to come up with your own character who would maybe join the group and maybe have a crush on Yumi as well. The best fan art I've seen of original characters are where they have the 2D and 3D version mapped out, illustrated in both mediums. I find that really cool. I believe this fandom had a huge resurgence in 2017, mainly due to the episodes being uploaded to YouTube. Tumblr is actually a regular rest stop for me for any Code Lyoko media. There's still a lot here, from fan art, comics, and on the rare occasion, animation. I don't know if anyone my age really keeps up with the show. Even when I was in animation school, I don't think Code Lyoko was brought up by anyone. I don't think even the nerdiest animators knew much about it, besides the fact that it was French, and was a fairly popular sci-fi show. One thing I found interesting is that Aelita has become the de facto mascot for Code Lyoko, like a universal symbol for the show, not dissimilar to the X.A.N.A logo. I don't think the X.A.N.A logo is as popular, but I actually think it's a cool subtle way to reference the show, especially putting it on any kind of electronics is cool because it looks like it's possessed by X.A.N.A. For Aelita though, the pink hair makes her very noticeable and easy to draw since her design is very simple. In a sense, she is the main character, the plot wouldn't be happening without her, so it actually makes sense most artists would gravitate towards drawing her. Actually, one of the things that incited my return to Code Lyoko was this Tumblr artist, Vincent Zenova. They made some incredible fan art and comics recently, including this aged-up version of all the characters, and also this amazing comic about Aelita being stuck in Lyoko. You should give it a read even if you're not into Code Lyoko, it's really good. Also, special mention to this artist I followed called Tenko back in 2017. I believe she is a mangaka who got really obsessed with Code Lyoko around the same time I did, and there was like a 3-year period where she only published Code Lyoko fan art and nothing else, and every wallpaper I had featured her fan art. She even did Laura Gautier fan art. No one does that in this fandom. Why? Also, Insane Shipper, drew fan art of every damn ship in existence that could be even conceived in that show. I wish I had that kind of beast in me, jeez. Oh, she's bifted to Genshin now. Moving on from Tumblr, the fan wiki for the show is incredibly detailed. I was able to confirm a lot of details in this video with the insane number of pages that were written on there. Code Lyoko is a very fun show to read and write a wiki for. There's so much backstory and interesting mechanics characters have and use throughout, so I'm not entirely surprised at the wealth of information here. There were also a lot of other websites created by fans of Code Lyoko. A lot of them don't seem to be as operational now as they used to be. There was a resurgence in their use around 2013 when Evolution was around, but not much since then. I found this website called Lyoko Freakers, which is a fan website with some interesting features. It has a blog that was last updated in 2013 with some forums, as well as a fanfiction section. The forums are all based on different locations in the show, and you can talk to all the superfans there if you sign in with an account. It feels like very old anime community, like way back in the 2000s when Haruhi Suzumiya was the biggest thing. Also, I found this feature where you can talk to Aelita, and it's not very usable. She doesn't remember anything you say, kind of a consistent character trait for her, and she talks like a computer program, which she's not that. Also, there's this page I found called Showcase, which has the most popular or best written works in the website. There's a fanfiction where Jeremie is stuck in a Groundhog Day of June 6th, 1994 after he turned to the past all the way back there. There's also that documentary I mentioned called Lyoko Decoded, and this very well-written essay about darker themes in Code Lyoko, including essay. It's a good read. I just thought it's a G-rated website, but it has a warning tag at least. I also can't mention the website codelyoko.fr. It's the hub for any kind of news about Code Lyoko. It's a bit less active now. Last I heard about any significant activity was that there was a rewatch podcast happening hosted by some superfans, but that was in 2017, so I'm pretty sure it's over by now, and I missed the boat on that one. Okay, just found the most recent news. It was actually in January this year, and it's talking about the soundtrack to the original show. Oh, they're releasing a vinyl in contact with the original creators of the soundtrack. That's fun. This is also a very extensive website, even more so than the fan wiki. I've legitimately never seen so much dedication in writing pages upon pages about series development, characters. There's even an entire page about what happened to Moonscoop, the production company behind Code Lyoko. I just can't imagine something this extensive being written by fans today. There's so much passion here, it's crazy. One thing that is unique about this fandom is how close the fans seem to be with the people who created them. There's interviews, cons, meetups, everyone's really still invested in talking to them and discussing any of their upcoming projects. I'd recommend going through this website. There's a lot happening here. There's Flash games. Remember Flash? Great, I can't play a single one. That's fun. I think this is a good time to introduce you to a game dev by the name of Imuldeki on this website. He alone has been working on a fan game for Code Lyoko since 2010, and the development is still going on to this day. He releases videos frequently with updates about the game, and his most recent update was 6 months ago. Development is slow, but there's a lot of passion here, especially how much detail is going into every part of the game. I really hope it gets released one day. I think a Code Lyoko game is such a natural extension of the TV show. I wouldn't mind if a game is what continues the story from season 4. You wouldn't be surprised to know that there are fans who wanted a Code Lyoko fan game with some more meat to it or its own original story. Lyoko Conquerors is a fan game bridging the gap between season 3 and 4 and focuses entirely on William and his story about getting captured by X.A.N.A. The more I hear about how popular William is, he actually reminds me a lot of how Batman fans feel about Jason Todd. Like, very little canon media available, but the fans interpret and basically adopted the character as their own. In that sense, I feel like I could really enjoy William as a character. I just wish the show gave him a bit more of a chance before he became Xana's right-hand man. There's also Can You Keep a Secret, which is an RPG game. Again, that seems story-based. All I know about this game is that it's about escaping the Hermitage and that it's still in beta. There's a game by a creator called Kiko that's just called Code Lyoko. You can actually download it right now if you like. It's a strategy game in 3D, but it's halted development at the moment. Otherwise, I don't think I've been able to find any other fan games on Reddit. If you have anything in development, let me know. I'll put it in the description. I also took a look at the Reddit for this show, and it seems that a lot of fans are still hungry for Code Lyoko. This fandom has a lot of artists, I think mainly in the gaming scene, so there's a lot of people trying to upstart a reboot or revival of the series via games, or posting 3D models, memes, animation. Code Lyoko is also very appealing to digital artists and storytellers because of its mystery and grittiness. It really inspires something in fans. It has a very large amount of fanfiction on AO3 too. You can skip this part if for some reason you're willing to watch a 3-hour video on Code Lyoko, but are too embarrassed to listen to me talk about fanfiction. There are currently 1,659 fics here, and the most popular one outside of crossovers is a 200k word fic called Garage Kids that last updated in 2022. This looks like a continuation of the pilot's premise, where Odd is the new kid at school, and the virtual world is called Xanadu, not Lyoko. I don't think Garage Kids was this popular. I might have seriously underestimated its impact. The series inspires a lot of crossovers too. You wouldn't be surprised to see a lot of miraculous Ladybug ones here specifically. AO3 is probably not a great indicator for fanfiction fanfiction in this community though, since AO3 only really got popularity in the 2010s, and Code Lyoko is an older fandom. So if you're looking for better written fanfiction from adult fans, you'd have to go to older sites or maybe try your luck at fanfiction.net. Also, there's one more thing I do want to add. I just read this fanfiction while I was editing this video, and now that I finished it, there's no option. I have to add it into the video. I already know the length at this point. This isn't healthy. I've spent weeks on this. So I found this fanfiction called Echoes of Echoes, Finding William by Silver Prince on AO3. This is really, really good. It's definitely better than the novels and the 5th season combined. I feel like I mentioned this so many times already, but I really like the idea of a time skip for this show, where the kids grow up and are either in uni or in high school. In this version, the time skip is actually a lot further ahead. It's in their mid to late 20s, and all of them have separated to different countries, far from Caddick and France. This fanfiction doesn't actually retcon a lot from the original show, like a lot of other sequels seem to have, but it tries its best to fill in the gaps and even significantly improves the source material. The only issue is, it was abandoned in 2018 and has not updated since, and I'm quite certain it never will, since it's been like almost a decade now. It's about the length of 2 novels, but even then it felt like I was just starting to read it when I finished it. There was clearly so much more it was going to go into. It could have been a 200k fully finished fic. You can kind of feel it while reading it. The characters are all written with so much tenderness and careful consideration. There's also a lot of thought put into what they'd be like as adults and how different their personalities would be from when they were kids. I have a slight issue with it being a bit too, like, Titans, like, where it seems like it's trying to be edgy at times and super adult, but otherwise it's fine. The characters just swear a lot for people in their 20s, in the late 2010s, in my opinion. I'll just quickly go through everyone's deal here. So, Jeremie is a very interesting character in this. Him and Aelita are married and live together in London. Aelita is a sound designer, while Jeremie works for the London Stock Exchange. He actually has a criminal record too. After so much hacking, it's not surprising that he's been thrown in jail at least twice. Their relationship is super realistic. Aelita is not always happy with Jeremie. Jeremie's not always happy with Aelita, but they go through thick and thin, and they've been through a lot together, and they rely on each other all the time. Jeremie's also gotten a lot more mature and a little jaded about the world around him. It's a bit more daunting to realize what you actually went through as a 12-year-old with these government agents trying to track you down and this evil supercomputer virus almost killing you several times. There's also a shift in perspective when you realize that this government project was what caused everything you went through as a child, and you realize what this means for you politically, that your country was complicit in something like this. When they're kids, it's simple. It's just stop X.A.N.A from taking over the world, and anyone who doesn't understand is an obstacle. But now they run away because they understand that not everything is a sunshine and roses like it used to be. It's hard to be patriotic about France when France has tried to silence you so many times. Aelita is also more of a solemn character as well. She's happy, she has her dreams, she's happy with Jeremie as well. The trauma obviously still lingers in Aelita, but she gets a very important role in the book. She isn't sidelined as easily as she could have been, I think. And especially later, she's the one who discovers the entire story of Project Carthage and X.A.N.A as well. I really love that. I especially love that she kind of sees the Hermitage and her past as something for herself. Like, she doesn't share everything she knows about her father and her mother to the group because that's just for her. Like, that's a family she lost, and she wants to keep a bit of that to herself. Yumi, on the other hand, lived in Japan for a few years and has mostly been doing a few random odd jobs to see what fits her best. Ultimately, though, she returns to Paris to take care of her sick mother, whose illness doesn't get named. She just, is sick and lies around a lot, and it's a little sad. Ulrich, on the other hand, is a model after getting injured when he was playing for a football team in Germany, and now he isn't really happy with his life. He's missing sports terribly, while also feeling ambivalent about modeling as well. Odd is the craziest one, in my opinion. So he went to Italy for a few years to do film, but then he, went to the States because he felt that European film was a bit too pretentious for his taste, and is now living in New York in crippling poverty while smoking weed and bouncing around from house to house. Also, without making movies. I don't really like this decision. I feel like it's a bit too much for a character like Odd. I think it'd make more sense if he became stupidly successful and no one could reach out to him anymore. And also just thinking about this poor, like, kid with a French accent trying to make it in New York, I just feel like he'd get bullied relentlessly. Also, I don't think Odd would want to be there at all. Does New York sound like Odd? Does it even a little bit? The thread that brings them all together is strangely William. The main conflict that returns everyone to Paris is that the government has been kidnapping old teachers from Caddick for mysterious reasons, and they realize it's because they're trying to rebuild X.A.N.A and are looking for its source code. And even though the kids did destroy X.A.N.A, there might be a little left in William, who was possessed by X.A.N.A for the longest time, and definitely has remnants of it still in him. The kids also have remnants of Lyoko, because all of a sudden they start developing powers they had in Lyoko. Yumi, for example, is suddenly able to do telekinesis in the real world. As for William, though, he went missing when he graduated high school, so now the kids are trying to find him so they can stop the government, who seem to be slowly rebuilding Project Carthage. I think this is the best one. I really like this continuation of the original show plot-wise. I think the conflict being that there are people trying to rebuild X.A.N.A and the kids having to stop them is really refreshing for the show. It's not just X.A.N.A's back or Aelita lost her memories again. It's unique, and it makes sense why they would all gather together this time to stop the rebuilding of X.A.N.A, this thing that affected their childhood so severely. I also liked how the fic acknowledges William's role as X.A.N.A's right-hand man and how it affected him so deeply that he basically disappeared and no one can find him. Like, he was so traumatized by being possessed that he decided to cut connection from everyone he ever knew. Sissi is also in this fic, and she's utilized wonderfully, I think. She's added to the group, and she really compliments everyone as more of an optimist about the whole situation. She also becomes quite plot relevant later on, which I really appreciate, because I wouldn't have liked it if Sissi was just there for no reason. I also really love that Project Carthage is very fleshed out, and they explain what it actually is and why Franz left it in great detail. I don't want to spoil it. I think it's explained better in the fic. You should read it. An interesting thing about the explanation is that Mrs. Hertz, the science teacher, is also involved. Actually, that is a thing you'll see in a lot of continuations, that Mrs. Hertz actually knew about the supercomputer the whole time and even knew Aelita. It makes a little sense because she is the science teacher who replaced Franz, so canonically, she should know something about him, or even Delmas should. I do like the idea of her or him knowing, and then the insane double take she or Delmas probably took when Aelita showed up to school for the first time. Delmas had to have met Aelita though, no? I guess Franz might have only taught for a small amount of time if he was stuck in a supercomputer loop for 7 years. Or maybe he only taught for like a week before he went missing. The technical jargon is also really good. I feel like I actually learned a lot about computer science reading this. The author definitely understands a lot of terms about websites and hacking that are completely lost on me. This is something important about the fandom, actually. A lot of fans here are computer nerds, which makes sense why there's a whole statistics page on the fan wiki detailing every devirtualization and creature kill. So yeah, I recommend reading this. It's really, really good. I know people are hesitant about reading unofficial works because they deviate from the canon, and they're also written by nobodies, but trust me, this one's really good. I really do recommend it. Even though it's not completed, I think it's quite worth it. Also, Silver Prince, please finish it. Please, I really want to read more. I beg thee. This video is 3 hours long, and I dedicated a whole section to you. Please, hear me out. You might be in another fandom now, but come back and just finish this one. I want to know if Odd and Ulrich get together. I hope they get together. I mean, it's in the tag, so that I think they do get together. I wonder how many homophobes don't want to read it now that I just mentioned that. I think the fanfiction community for this show is quite healthy. Most of the popular ones are very, very inventive and story-based. Code Lyoko is like a sandbox where you can test so many different things out, the characters, and play around with the formula it's set up. But you can also experiment with where the story can go from where it ended too. I think that's where the most interesting fan media for this show lies. There are 2 projects currently on YouTube that were made to continue from the finale of the animated series of the show as well. They're both quite ambitious, but a really great watch, so let's get into it. First one is called Code Lyoko Beyond. To catch you up, Code Lyoko Beyond posts episodes following the final episode of the series, Echoes. It's a continuation that edits clips from the original show as new episodes for a fan-made Season 5 and Season 6 of the show. There's a dedicated team of voice actors and editors, and there are multiple dubs including English, Turkish, French, Italian, Spanish, and Portuguese. The person making this is Giulio Raphael, and he posts frequent updates on the project as well. His explanation for making this is that the show was really important to him as a kid, and he wanted to dedicate time to making an unofficial Season 5 and 6. It's a very expansive and still ongoing project. You can go and support it now if you'd like. They have a Discord server that's still active. I've watched these episodes and they're pretty good, save for a few awkward editing moments, but that's expected if you're limited with the footage you can use, since it's all repeated from the show. They actually go a pretty interesting direction with the plot, but there are a few questions I have, like why William is only part of the group now after there was still some bad blood between him and the group during the Season 4 finale, or the finer details about how Franz Hopper is in the physical world again when kids didn't know he was back. Like, how did he get materialized and who materialized him? Regardless, this is actually a really fun watch. I highly recommend it. I got pretty invested from the few episodes I saw. I wish they updated the playlist though, because I didn't realize they were already up to episode 112, and it's still going. Project reminds me a lot of the Total Drama reunion movie that Total Drama fans were trying to get off the ground on YouTube that was unfortunately slashed. It's a shame that never got released. So the second project I found was this fan film video that was posted very recently in September of last year by Özberk Özen called A Second Chance. It was mostly made by Özberk and co-written by Wezi Ziambo or Lyoko Jem. This is an incredibly well-made, full-length movie with every asset created solely for this project. This fully rendered 3D backgrounds, 2D animation for Lyoko and even Katic. It's incredible how much work was put into this. Also, I watched the whole movie. And I'm not kidding, it's the best fan project I've seen of the show. There's no argument. I have another piece of media that I really like that's in the next section of this video. But without a doubt, this is an incredible fan work and Özberk should be proud. I want people to watch this themselves because this movie is criminally underrated. But the pitch is, following the season 4 finale, Aelita is in an incredibly dark place after losing her father and feels alienated from her friend group despite a whole year passing since then. During a seemingly normal day, when they're chatting during lunchtime, Ott suggests something offhandedly about launching a return to the past so far back that they're able to make everything perfect now, including saving Franz Hopper and finding Anthea as well. And Aelita starts to seriously consider this. She decides to go behind everyone's back and organize a return to the past all the way back to when her parents met so that she wouldn't have to come to this reality where her father is dead and her mother is still missing. And it's the best way to take the story from that finale. I can't even begin to tell you how invested I got in this. It delves really deep into Aelita's psyche, her relationship with her friends, Jeremie, as well as showing her backstory with her father and his backstory with his wife and Project Carthage. It has multiple flashbacks that filled in the gaps the show never did, and it's directed really well. It's truly incredible. I think it's mandatory viewing for every Code Lyoko fan. I'll put a link in the description. Code Lyoko's cultural impact is not really felt today, I think, mainly in the West. Besides forehead jokes about the series and mild references to its very, earnest theme song, I don't think there's much. Finding someone mention Code Lyoko in the wild is like coming across a shiny Pokemon. But how you find shiny Pokemon? Do you come across them? I actually don't know. One of my favorite memes I've seen recently is showing Ulrich, Yumi, Odd, and Aelita in a screenshot and asking who the art students were. I guess the last time I saw a reference to this show. It doesn't really deter me that this show feels like it's starting to get lost to time though, because it's still very important to me. It seems important to French animation as a whole, actually. I don't think Miraculous Ladybug could have been made without Code Lyoko. There's a stupid amount of references to Code Lyoko in Miraculous Ladybug, including an Okuma that's literally just X.A.N.A as well. It's a bit hard to talk about the fan community because you can feel that excitement there, especially on Reddit and Tumblr even today. This desire for more Code Lyoko, like surely if we can all band together and figure something out and try anything to get another reboot or revival or even continuation of the series, if we just yell hard enough at companies or try to do something ourselves. Just not another season of Code Lyoko Evolution, please. I'm really, really good on that. So Abridged series are a thing that exist. Okay, this is very impactful to my viewing of the series. You might not have heard of this, even as a Code Lyoko fan, but you've got to hear me out. Or you can skip this section. I don't think everyone has 3 hours to waste with me anyway. It's so hard to explain what an abridged series is outside of the anime community now, because they only really work in anime and not in any other type of media. Let me give you the standard Wikipedia definition because it's the best one. It's a fan-made parody that uses video footage from a television series, oftentimes Japanese animation, which is usually filled with comedic redubbing. And the most famous example of this is the English dub of Ghost Stories, which is said to be the original abridged series. You've seen clips of this dub, you just have. The difference is this is an official dub. That's what makes the Ghost Stories dub a really fascinating piece of anime history in the West, since nothing like this will ever happen again. Now, unofficial parodies are also extremely popular, and I've watched a lot of these. Dragon Ball Z Abridged is the second most famous one, and I actually haven't seen it. I just thought it was important to mention since it's one of the most well-known ones. I have seen S.A.A. Abridged, and I'm not kidding, it is leagues better than the original show. Special mention also to the Kuroko no Basket Abridged series. I really remember liking this one, as well as Magi. Of course, one of my non-anime favorites is the Ruby Abridged series by Zay Overseer. Still so good.
Hey, since we use dust as ammunition, if I shot someone in the mouth, would they bite the dust?
Yang, let's just go to bed, alright?
Abridged series are very difficult to watch if you're not a weeb. It's hard to explain. The humor in these series are just awfully specific. One thing you'll notice is that they're very fast-paced, and not only that, they absolutely love their references to other popular media that the writer might like. They're very quotable. You might not know the I'm at a soup store is from Code Geass Abridged. I think that became popular outside of the anime community. I think. God, I've been on the internet way too long. I mean, I've been in the digital sea for too long. To get to the point, the humor in these abridged series is very American. You can see consistent tropes here from American comedy. There's usually a straight man character who's the protagonist and reacting to the weirdness of the world. They're also quick-witted and cocky, but the other characters are about as equally unhinged. I think the way Western anime fans have engaged with anime has created this kind of subgenre of anime culture that manifests most explicitly in abridged series. God, I don't know if that sentence made any sense to anyone except me. When I think about people talking about the Persona games or Death Note or any other anime, they always emphasize those moments and quotes that they'll never stop repeating, and abridged series are kind of an extension of that. I don't know if that sentence made any sense either. I have not written a video essay in such a long time. Abridged series also nowadays go beyond parody. Well, back in the day, they would just exaggerate the personalities of the characters in canon and actually try to have a shortened version of the show. It's a lot more popular nowadays to change the character's personality and motivations entirely. A tsundere becomes a yandere, a quiet guy becomes a very annoying smug guy, the smart royal is an idiot who accidentally keeps winning. They aren't the same characters. The writers might as well just be writing for a completely different show. They even employ narrative. They're not just comedies. They have their own stories that they're trying to tell with the limited footage they have from canon. They'll still have comedic moments, but there are emotional beats and moments of legitimately impressive storytelling. Also, the voice acting has no business being really good sometimes. Like, better than audiobooks. God, they better bring Julia Whelan back for Emily Henry's next book before they get some boring-ass dude with no voice acting experience. I will get legitimately mad. Now, the best abridged series have always been in anime. They're just really good at it. The reason is because it's really hard to do abridged for non-anime shows because the lip flaps in anime make it so that you can voice act over it and perfectly match because there's very few frames. If you want to get really creative, you can also make your own lip flaps and frames if you have more free time and a bigger budget. Doing an abridged version of, say, Young Justice is difficult because there is voice acting animation. The way the mouth moves match exactly to what the characters are saying. At that point, you're veering into bad lip reading videos. As a result, I actually went into Code Lyoko Abridged with very little faith. I thought this was going to be boring, safe, and probably something I would watch 2 episodes of. And that didn't happen. So Code Lyoko Abridged is actually one of the best things you can watch on this site, and I'm not even kidding. It is absolutely criminal that it has basically no views. Watching this series made me realize that view count doesn't matter, because if it did, this would be a lot more popular, and it's honestly why I don't take view count or general consensus as seriously as I used to. Okay, so this is a long lead up to what I want to talk about, which is YouTuber Squad's Code Lyoko Abridged series. The channel YouTuber Squad released a one-shot parody of Code Lyoko in 2016 as part of an entry to Team 4-Star's TIVA contest, aka Tenkaichi Iron Man Budokai Abridgeathon, a competition which was about encouraging people to start their own abridging series for their own favorite shows. Team 4-Star are the guys who made the Dragon Ball Z abridged series, so they have a lot of pull in the community. God, remember when YouTube had communities? And there was an anime community, and people did fan contests and stuff? Remember those days? Anyway, I don't know when, but the YouTuber Squad's one-shots stopped being an entry to this contest and just ended up being its own thing with 11 episodes and 3 30-minute movies going through the endings of each season of the show. And I'm here to share it with you today. I bet you didn't expect this on your trip down Code Lyoko memory lane, did you? A whole side tangent about an abridged series. This series didn't age amazingly, I'll say that real quick. I'd say be cautious if you're interested in watching it, and keep in mind that this was made by a bunch of college kids. It's definitely good enough to watch though. What about, just to keep it safe, if you watch clips or seen the ghost story stuff, there is a high chance you will like Code Lyoko Abridged. Even if you haven't seen the original series, I think you will enjoy it. Hell, I didn't even see SAO before SAO Abridged, and I still enjoyed it. Okay, let's get into everyone's deal. Firstly, Jeremie is an evil nerd, which is such a great change in a show like Code Lyoko for an abridged series. In the original, he's a very sweet kid, but let's be real here. He fell in love with a virtual girl, and he was running around an abandoned factory looking for robot parts. It's hard to not make the leap of him being a bit of an edgelord loser. So this Jeremie casually plans world domination similar to X.A.N.A, and the reason he goes to the factory in this version is because he started making anonymous videos, and then actual anonymous hackers started sending him death threats. Wonderful, I already know too much about him. That is one thing I appreciate about abridged series in general, is how quickly they get to the point. No meandering. Only jump cuts. Also, Jeremie sounds like a more high-pitched Michael Reeves and talks with the same cadence as Ben Shapiro, and I think I could literally listen to him rant all the time. I want his voice to be the voice that speaks the thoughts in my head. I'd feel more productive, I think.
After discovering a computer system that is about as large and complex as NASA's, I'm starting to think I wasn't the first person to use this for illegal activities.
Jeremie is also the de facto main character of the show. He gets phenomenal development from a lame nerd to getting corrupted by the enigmatic Franz Hopper to choosing his friends despite it all. It's legit a really good and very interesting character arc. Also, if you're wondering what happened to Ulrich, he's just aggressively woke now, and that's it. He's aggressively woke. you'll notice watching the show that it's not a minor change. He is actually just the exact same character, except he's aggressively woke. I think I just really like saying aggressively woke. Odd is very black-coded, despite Odd not being black. He has a black voice actor and acts as though he's black, and I love it. The series really just doesn't give a fuck. Also, I love the juxtaposition because Odd has such a high-pitched and excitable voice in the original, and in this one it's deep and he sounds insanely chill. Never thought I'd see the day Odd is the straight man in whatever the hell is happening in Lyoko. He very obviously doesn't want to be there, and it kills me every time. Aelita is fun because Jeremie turns on the supercomputer and the first thing she does is scream violently. Very normal reaction when you think about it. I probably do that on my first breath of consciousness in 10 years. Girl has a temper. An incredible temper, actually. It's like they pumped up the sass from Aelita in season 4 and then dropped her in this Abridged series. I'll give her this. She really wants to be free of Lyoko. She'll literally take her freedom over any of the other characters dying. They also drag Yumi into this, and they're really subtle about it, but I don't think she wants to be there either. And William is truly a guy, and he exists. Actually, I'm not even gonna play a clip of William. You'll have to find out what he sounds like on your own. Enjoy. Or maybe good luck, I can't tell which. If you wanted to know what horror show Jim becomes, it's a drug dealer, so I think we're good there. Also, he's a spy for Iraq. Or America, I think. And he keeps talking about his great and glorious leader, whom he needs to serve. And the fact I can't tell which country he means is probably cause for concern. I need to mention this, but the principal's dialogue is very obviously auto-translated English to French subtitles. And it's just this guy doing the absolute worst French accent I've ever heard in my life. It sounds like slam poetry, but also it's the best thing. I never skip a scene with the principal.
I'll bet you're running a sweatshop here, aren't you? Those places change, kids.
Maman jette à terre qui ne pas de details. Bien questionné saucisse Tamiya enterprise commercials lucrative.
Funnily enough, the series has a better explanation for Franz Hopper's backstory than the original show. Like, it's hilarious and insane, like any Abridged series, but a lot of his motivation makes more sense. He's more morally grey as a character, and it's said that he developed Project Carthage himself. It also explains how the supercomputer developed all the skills X.A.N.A has now. And like the novels, instead of Project Carthage being something he defected from and produced X.A.N.A against, Project Carthage was the original prototype before it became X.A.N.A, which just works way better in my opinion. I've seen a lot of fan works kind of retcon that. I think the backstory becomes a lot cleaner that way and makes the characters a lot more closely connected to this conflict. The series also has the most creative intros I've ever seen. That was until I watched all the shows they ripped the intros from, and it's no longer as creative to me. They've done Sunny, Scrubs, Freaks and Geeks, Avatar TLA, Boondocks, the Cowboy Bebop movie, Star Wars, and I don't know the others, and I don't think I've watched them. Someday I'll get the references and tell you all. To spare you from just me explaining the whole plot to you, I think it would be better if you watched it yourself. And because I kind of watched the whole thing while writing the script, got distracted, and forgot to take notes, I'm going to just make a compilation of all my favorite lines from this series.
Holy those rumors about you trying to blow up the school really are true, aren't they?
Trust me, you're not worth it. Aelita?
Wow. You know, I actually really liked this.
What are you talking about?
Ow. Maybe we should have checked if he was injured or something.
Hey, Aelita, don't worry. We're sending Ulrich on his way.
Isn't he in bad condition?
It's a virtual world! Hey guys, miss me?
Where the have you been, asshole?
Well, Aelita, I'm sure you'll fit right in around here, and oh my god, what the hell are you all smiling at? You're freaking me the out.
I think we should all take a moment to acknowledge our adventure, to remind ourselves that we are turning off a device that could be of great use to us in the future. And is X.A.N.A really all that bad? I mean, sure, he's an asshole, but so are we.
Jeremie, I know that there's a whole apocalypse going on and everything, but I'm not going back to Lyoko.
Aelita, we literally have no other choice.
Yeah, how about we just leave? We don't really like these people anyway.
Okay, Aelita, I know it's kind of a foreign concept, but you have to keep eating or you will die.
How am I supposed to remember to do that every single day?
You know, the average human can go a whole 3 weeks without any food.
Really?
Shut the up, Odd. Hey, Ulrich, we have an activated tower.
Bull. It's been 4 hours since the last activated tower.
It had sentimental value. It's okay, Odd. I'm sure it's just a mild case of schizophrenia.
My god, we finally have an excuse to kill Jeremie. Do you know how many nights I've dreamed about this?
Don't worry. I'll break the ice with my sword.
Ulrich, that doesn't really seem like a...
Ah! You dumbass!
Wait, you're that guy from my visions. You're Franz...
My ass. I'll just be the first to say it. How the fuck do we know you're not X.A.N.A? It's happened 48 times now.
Rick, Scanner Aelita, and virtualization.
Wow, you are the only one who can pull that line off.
Give it a shot sometime. You'd be surprised.
Yeah, okay. I think I'll do that.
Well, nothing to lose. What do I have to live for anyway? An SJW? A misanthrope? A masochist? And a sociopath?
Okay, so here's what's up. Apparently Aelita's on suicide watch, so we're headed to Carthage. Yay! Any questions?
How did you even—
Great, then get your pathetic asses to the scanners.
Trash.
I hear Jim.
Bastard child.
Hello, Jim.
Ninja girl.
Go fuck yourself, Jim. William, I'm gonna need you to be as silent as possible. I don't know how many times I've already said this, but your voice is the reason there is no God.
Yeah, well, we don't have any time for indecision. Ulrich, Odd, you and William are the new bomb squad.
Yes, we are the bomb.
Shut the fuck up.
Wait, on to more pressing matters. What are we gonna do about William?
Kill him.
That was a rhetorical question. We're low on manpower, so William is officially joining the team. We have no choice anyway.
Yeah, well, not sure what I can do about that.
You can apologize for calling me a bitch earlier.
Odd, I literally just repeated what you said.
God damn it, she's actually right this time.
To think that our fun-loving, adventurous days could soon be over. Oh, the memories we've had.
Yeah, fun. I'm really gonna miss getting shot and stabbed all the time.
Better than getting literally flattened twice.
Having William's sword impale my chest.
Having all the life drained out of you by an octopus.
Okay, god damn.
Do you know what today is?
October 9th?
October 9th, 2023. It is exactly 1 year since I discovered the supercomputer.
So much has changed in not a lot of time. I don't know if I'm ready to face the future.
I'm not sure I am either, but I'm certain that we are.
Hey.
Hey, you seen Odd?
Yeah, he's been so ecstatic since we killed X.A.N.A. He's shouting his joy while running around the school.
I'm free from all these freaks and you psychos in this crazy world! Yes! Oh, yes!
Oh, right.
Also, I just went back to the final episode of the series again and went to the comments section because I'm not kidding you, most of these comments are people writing long paragraphs talking about how much they love the series, including me actually, but I lost my own comment. And I found a comment from Technoblade from 8 years ago. So, yeah, I thought you would all like to see that. Did I get into Code Lyoko the same time Technoblade did? That's kind of crazy. Or maybe not. Maybe everyone wanted to watch Code Lyoko that same day back in 2017. Anyway, if that's not an endorsement, I don't know what is. YouTuber Scott has also been getting into more film stuff recently. If you want or like his stuff, highly recommend checking him out. I don't think he's going to be making anything related to Code Lyoko anytime soon, though. So, I was a little deceptive in my description of the finale of this show. I said it ended right after Aelita's father died to kill X.A.N.A, but there's an episode post that. You're not missing much here though, it's a cooldown episode, or flashback episode with constantly replaying clips. Nobody likes these kinds of episodes, but this one kind of works for me. It's at the end of the show, so there's something meaningful about seeing the show itself reflect on its past. The setup for the episode is that after X.A.N.A's defeat, the kids are now shutting down the supercomputer for good. They have no need for it anymore. All their reactions are very different. Yumi is so ready to finish this that she might as well have just shut it down on her own in the last episode right after X.A.N.A was defeated. The others, however, are very uncomfortable with it. Aelita's reasoning is the most understandable since shutting it down means losing her father forever, for real this time. He is fully gone. There's no fragment to find or glowing sphere here anymore. It would mean moving on to her current life, and that's terrifying for her. For Jeremie, it's scary because it was thanks to the supercomputer and these adventures that he even made all these friends in the first place and met Aelita. He's the smartest of the group, so people really relied on him for a while, and now that's all gone. He thinks that if they shut down the supercomputer, he's going to lose all his newly made friends too. The dynamic really worked for him, and he's going to feel a little lost now without Lyoko. Odds is remarkably stupid. It's like a Ryuji level reason on why he doesn't want to shut it down, and it's just because he'll miss it. And he liked being a superhero. The most realistic answer from a 14-year-old boy, I guess. Ulrich also has a similar reason, which is that he's had a lot of great times in Lyoko, mainly with Yumi. His really isn't expanded on, but he's kind of the audience surrogate, so in the same way we're sad to see it go, he's also sad to see it go. I think there's also this more subtle implication that this was a way for Ulrich to prove himself, since he's only thought to be good at sport and not at school. There's also a subplot about Sissi, who found a way to the factory and listened to all of Jeremie's video diaries detailing their adventures up to this point, so So she tries to tell on them to her principal dad, who, like, obviously thinks she's crazy. Regardless, they have to launch a return to the past so she forgets. And after milling on it a bit more, they finally decide to shut the supercomputer down for good. And the show ends with everyone waving the audience goodbye, and that's the real end of Code Lyoko. I remember this ending really well because I remember getting really emotional seeing the characters wave me goodbye when I felt like I'd only really gotten to know them. Code Lyoko was a scrappy project, it barely had much of a budget throughout its run, and anyone can see that. The characters wear the same outfits for 3 seasons, the animation only started to improve in quality around season 3, and the storytelling got less episodic as time went on. There's this sense in a lot of TV shows I've watched recently where you can feel that the writers are running out of ideas and it's obviously gone on too long. There's less and less stories to tell about these characters, and the actors come in and out of the show when they get sick of it or want in again. But I never felt that for even a moment with Code Lyoko. Code Lyoko, I felt, ended at its ascent to its peak. The episodes towards the finale were great. I still remember Lost at Sea really well. The search for Franz Hopper, the insanity of the phone-related zombie apocalypse. There was so much confidence for that final season, and it felt so abrupt to just end it there. I think that's what resulted in so many people creating continuations post that original series with movies and episodes and fan fiction and books. It felt like it was a story that could have gone on for 2 or 3 more seasons as long as the kids aged. I think it would have gotten very repetitive if they didn't. Or it could have done with a time skip. It was just that good. But it ended with these weird post endings, and it's bizarre to think that it'll likely be forgotten in another decade again. I would like this show to come back, but I really don't think it will despite its loyal fan base. It's just been too long. And even though there was quite a huge break between the original show and Code Lyoko Evolution, I think we're past that point now in 2026. Either way, it has a really special place in my heart, and the show influenced me in more ways than one. It's truly important to me. And I often think about the fact that it came from such humble beginnings, that this was a short from Gobelin made by student animators that got picked up by a studio. Rewatching the pilot, it made me remember that was something I wanted to do since I was young. It was to make or write or do anything with an animated TV show. I wanted to write episodes in these 20-minute Monster of the Week formats, or even something like the indie productions you see on YouTube. And every year it feels like a dream that's slipping further and further away from me. I can't help but think that if I was just at the right place at the right time, I could still do something like that. That I could still make something like Code Lyoko or Batman the Animated Series, like I've always desperately wanted, with a decent amount of creative control and not have to worry about battling against AI or consumer statistics and merch and fan reception. I wonder if I could still make something that's small but impactful and means something to a lot of people like Code Lyoko. Anyway, yeah, kind of a bittersweet note to end it on, but that's Code Lyoko. Hi again. Thanks for coming back to rewatch this after rewatching the show. I know you definitely did that. For sure. Also, this happens often for video scripts where I keep editing things and it makes me want to research more, and I find something and I'm like, that'd be a great thing to add to the video, and it's happened, no joke, 17 times so far. And I'm hoping that I don't have to update that number because I've been keeping count of how many times it's happened. Anyway, do the follow and stuff. I've been having a harder time making these videos, and if you want more, it would help to support me. Bye! I was about to end the video here, but there was something that was bothering me back when I was writing the fan community section, and it's that there's something about the show that people find enigmatic and so inspiring, so as to have such an active fan community in so many projects, and I haven't been able to pinpoint what it is about the show. I thought I'd give my theory on what it is. With other kids shows at this time, it's obvious what we like about them. For Avatar The Lost Airbender, it's the adventure, the action, the mission of the Avatar ending the war. For Gravity Falls, it was the slow unfolding of the mystery and characters. For Miraculous, it's the romance, even though it's me garbage now. But for Code Lyoko, it's not easily explained, even though it also has a lot of these elements. The only fandom I've seen match it in intensity is maybe the Undertale fandom. It was when I was rereading the comics that I realized what it was that had me coming back to it over and over again. In the B issue, Odd and Ulrich get a strong talking to from Delmas about possibly having to repeat a year since their grades have been so low. The reason is because of X.A.N.A attacks, obviously, and they discuss what they can do so their parents don't yell at them. And then Odd says this: yeah, between my mother and X.A.N.A, I wonder who I'm really afraid of in the end. And I think that's it. I think that's what I like about the show so much. It's a concept that no longer really exists in kids shows, where kids are the ones who are protecting the world from a great evil, not adults. Like, remember Totally Spies, Ben 10, Teen Titans, or Kim Possible? Kids being the one who protect us from evil and ensure there's peace. It's like when I mentioned about the most selfish thing the kids do with the computer is when Ulrich rewinds time just so his crush doesn't have to leave the country. It's because they're kids. That's the most they allowed themselves to be selfish. And there's something weirdly humbling about that. When you're a kid, your problems feel astronomical already. But what if there were kids your age who are also trying to save the world? whose problems were equivalent to their mother or father being mad at them. It's also interesting because when you think about the story of the show, the kids don't really win at the end of every season finale. In fact, A.N.A gets stronger each time, and the kids only barely manage to not let the issue get too worse. Like, you see A.N.A get closer to world domination in every season, even in little steps. He's confined to the supercomputer in season 1, and by season 4, he is freely roaming the internet. And the writers taking this direction is so fascinating to me. It's a refusal to let the kids have easy outs, easy wins, or solutions. Even with the ability to rewind time, they're still unable to fix every problem, and every conflict they face will be taxing, and every win has to be earned with great sacrifice. This kind of grit and determination is just not something I see in any shows anymore, not just kids' TV. These kids fight A.N.A because he wants to overtake the world, and they've taken responsibility for it and kept it secret. The adults can't be trusted to keep Aelita safe if they told them about the supercomputer in season 1. They learn from rewinding time how the adults will react, and it's never with any consideration for Aelita, who's a real person who deserves a life like them. There's no further argument about it. There isn't even a constant discussion about moral dilemmas or self-preservation. The only people these kids can rely on is this little friend group they've made, who has seen each other die multiple times, get tortured by a great evil, and despite it all pursue together, every time. Just for one girl. And even that girl is enough. Every life is important enough for them. So important that when evil does succeed, they will even reverse time to prevent it.